still trying to figure out that password issue because he definitely tried to include it, but it was having some. He was not able to come in.
Did he register?
I believe he did.
I thought I saw his registration in the yesterday afternoon during our meeting.
Kathleen, somebody said use your Zoom password. Hey, Jeff Shapiro, can you change your name, please?
Yes, I'm not sure how that happened.
I think I accidentally sent my link to everyone, so they're all logging in as me. I'm very sorry.
Yes.
Just imagine how much we would get done if there were that many Robertas in the world. Then.
No kidding. I think the host may need to change my name. I can't see the. Oh, there we go. She asked me to. Good.
That was me. Yeah.
Thanks. Uh-oh. It's not an option so far.
Jeff, on my computer, I had to do the same thing. Top right of my image of hit the three little buttons and go down, and it'll say rename.
Yeah, that's what I did, and I'm on my iPad. That's part of the problem.
Oh,
my
okay.
computer causes an echo for everybody. I haven't fixed that yet. Oh, let's see. Oh, here it is. Here's my rename. There we go. Okay, found it.
Tristan, did you see the message from Evelyn saying she couldn't hear anything? I don't know, the message just said she couldn't hear anything.
Okay, thank you for your patience, everyone. We're trying to get all of our speakers admitted, and then we will begin.
Do we know what's happening with Ennis?
While we're waiting, if your name does not appear correctly to identify you, can you please change your name? You can do that by going down to the bottom and finding the participants list, clicking on your the name that appears for you, and then go over to the right. There'll be a blue button that says more, and if you click there, it will tell you to rename. You can type in your own name. Do we have Ennis Jacobs yet? Or John Nix?
Marianne, this is Vivian. My name has Roberta Gassmeyer on that, my initial. I don't know how to do what you just said to do to change it. So I'm Vivian Filer. I don't know that I'm on my phone and I'm really not that good at this stuff. So
I'm going to do that for you right now. I figured out how to
Okay.
do that.
thank you.
Thank you, Vivian.
Mhm. Thank you.
If anyone else can identify themselves, we can help you rename. Let's see.
Is that Anna? That's Roberta?
I'm changing her right now. There's Anna.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. Oh, thank you.
That was just a glitch in our reminder system. There's another person who shows your name being Roberta Gassmeyer. If you're not Roberta and it looks like it says you are, can you tell us who you are? Okay.
I take it Roberta is trying to help get Ennis in. Should we go ahead on and get started? Wow.
We could begin out of order. We're missing two of our speakers. So we're trying to get them in, but should we begin?
I do know that Jacques is working with Mr. Jacobs to get on. So he's in the midst, but he just had trouble getting on. So Jacques is helping him.
Okay.
All right, I think out of respect for everyone that has joined us already, that we should go ahead on and get started. And if you all would continue to help people to get in as we move along, and we will be a little out of order, but we will be moving forward, okay? So good morning. Once again, thank you so very, very much for your patience. I am in Kwanda Ja, the chair of the NAACP Alachua County Branch Environmental and Climate Justice Committee. And we have been working all the way through the pandemic, And we have relied upon Zoom to bring us together. We're relying upon Zoom again this morning and a couple of other technical places. And we apologize for not being perfect with this. But I do want to say that we're just glad to be able to do what we can do, however we can do it. This morning, I'm going off of my speech here a little bit. Our committee believes not only that climate change is real, we feel strongly that we must do our share to heal the earth. The harm we have done consciously or unconsciously. That's why we're here today. We are interpreting our work as you being here as interpreting our work as your willingness to help us to move forward. We will move towards 100% clean energy because it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do for our children, for our grandchildren, for our great-grandchildren, and for the earth. I sincerely thank Evelyn Fox, our branch president, for supporting the work of our Environmental and Climate Justice Committee. Again, welcome. Please soak up as much knowledge as you can today so we can put it towards moving our county towards 100% clean energy. And with that, I want to allow Evelyn Fox to say good morning and welcome.
I don't think Evelyn is here right now, but all of our speakers are.
Turn it. Okay, with that, I will turn it over to Jock, who is our Florida State NAACP Environmental and Climate Justice organizer.
Thank you so much, Naquanda. Good morning to you all. Good morning to all our participants. My name is Jacques Worley. I am the Environment and Climate Justice Field Organizer for the NAACP Environmental and Climate Justice Program. We have a wonderful panel of speakers for us today that will be breaking down 100% how to transition, best ways to transition towards 100% clean energy. We have with us Ennis Jacobs, Marianne Schmink, John Nix, and Denise Abdul-Rahman. Each of our panelists will do a quick 15-minute presentation. And after their presentation, we will enter our breakout sessions. We will have 3 breakout sessions where we will dive in deeper on the subtopics of energy, weatherization, and food systems. After our breakout sessions, we will transition once more to now a regional breakout session where each of us will get to talk more specifically within our municipalities or collective zip codes about the overall presentation that we've had from the panelists, from our breakout room, and hopefully move a goal or two forward specific to one of our areas. Before I open the floor for our panelists, I'm told that our president, Evelyn Fox, is here, so I will provide the mic to Evelyn to give us some welcoming words. President Fox. You might be muted.
I think she may be gone again. It seems she may be having connection problems.
Okay. Well, of course, right? That's the thing. I think even a year and a half or running into 2 years, this the digital virtual piece always throws us a wrench when we expected the least. So we'll continue forward. And our first panelist is Mr. Ennis Jacobs. Mr. Jacobs, I know that you are with us now. So I will please ask that you unmute yourself and share your screen, because I do believe you have a presentation for us. It's going to be 15 minutes. I will give you a 2-minute reminder as that time is heading down. And please also give us a quick introduction and then please start your presentation. The floor is yours, Mr. Jacobs.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Good morning, everybody. I'm honored and delighted to join you this morning. It is. I had one of those technical flaws this morning myself as well, but we overcame it. It is I'm inspired by the level of enthusiasm and energy that I've observed in the Alachua County chapter and under the leadership of Ms. Ja. I want to applaud you for that, and I hope today will be, if not already, it will be a stepping stone for you guys to become leaders, not just in your community, but in the whole state for community activism on these issues. And with that, because I know I can get long-winded and my 15 minutes will go fast. Let me see if I can share my screen, and we'll go to my presentation. It says you got to allow me in. Let's share.
Give me 1 second, Mr. Jacobs. Let me take care of that for you real quick.
While you do that, let me put my gallery.
Okay, you should be able to share your screen now.
Okay, you see anything yet?
Not yet.
Let me try it again, man. All right, looks like that should be it. How about that?
We see it, yes.
Great. So you are very much in the proper place at the proper time, probably at a critical time to be having this conversation. This discussion is occurring all around the nation, probably all around the globe right now. for obvious reasons, because it's clear now that we must reconsider how we've done things. So first of all, my name is Ennis Jacobs. I am an attorney by trade. I've been around this space for a while. I was on the Public Service Commission in Florida. I've served on various capacities at the National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners. Today, I'm sitting on the board, and I'm actually president of the board of an organization called Southern Alliance for Clean Energy. This is an organization that has been very active throughout the Southeast for more than 30 years in leading advocacy for clean energy policies. And very active today in Tennessee, in the Carolinas, in Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. The fundamental premise of our talk today is that there is a transition that's going on. Whether we acknowledge it or not, it's happening around the globe, and that transition is simply that there is a redefinition, there's a paradigm shift even in how we produce and use energy. It has become an essential element of our well-being, of our public safety, of our public health, and its consumption has risen fundamentally over the years. But now there is a shift to the technologies that are being used, to the modus and the infrastructure by which we gain access to energy. That the investment in this transition is burgeoning around the globe. As you can see, $500 billion led essentially by the private sector, too often and with muted voices from the real grassroots users, too little input and too little direction from people at the end of the chain who are being affected very significantly by this transition. But there are some underlying issues that are going on. There's a business case as well as a social case for this transition. Fossil fuels have proven themselves to be very useful, but they've also proven themselves to be very costly, both in terms of economics and in terms of impacts on our society. And what we've seen is that there's the cost to operate, particularly coal plants, but even other fossil fuel plants, has risen dramatically. And at the same time, what we've seen is a real public acceptance and the elevation of technology for renewable generation energy sources. But we continue to operate under a centralized energy grid, which is designed to foster these fossil fuel plants and keep them economic. And we're now challenged to transition to a more innovative distributed transmission grid in order to make the most of this emergence of renewable energies. And of course, as we do that, we're already seeing and hearing about the issues with cybersecurity. And one of the biggest concerns in this transition to a more decentralized grid is the risk it poses for our cybersecurity, and the need is significant. But all those needs and all those challenges having been said, we must make this change in this because of this last item. Everybody is now clear that we're in a crisis on the impacts of climate change. The weather patterns, sea level rise, the heating, and everybody is clear that one of the fundamental causal factors of global warming and climate change impacts are the carbon dioxide emissions from fossil fuel applications. In fact, is now become absolutely clear why the energy sector should be an essential focus as we deal with climate change. It generates the lion's share of the carbon dioxide that affects our climate now. And within that, these fossil fuel technologies are the main causes: coal, natural gas, and petroleum. Some people have mixed up this conversation. They bring in some other technologies. I know that you in Gainesville, there's been a big conversation about biomass. Well, you have to be real careful down here in this other category that some of those technologies also generate carbon dioxide. So when you have to be real precise when you define what clean energy is and what clean and renewable energy is, because there is incentive in the industry to mix up and confuse that conversation. So, but the most prevalent and the most effective technologies are showing themselves. Solar, wind, geothermal, and those other technologies are proving that they are the best technologies to bring about reduction in carbon dioxide. So what we're seeing around the globe now is an emergence of this transition to renewable energy. If you go out in the Midwest, you see miles of wind farms. Now, and you're coming across the country, you're starting to see acres of solar farms. What this means is we're going to have to transition into a grid, a modernized grid that can handle these new types of technologies, what we would call a smart grid. We're going to have to decentralize that grid into things called microgrids. We'll talk more about that. And we're going to have to look at alternative to fossil fuels, which of course is happening already. But what's also happening in probably as dramatic a fashion, if not more, is transition away from gasoline-fired cars. Also a major contributor to carbon dioxide. We're seeing a explosion in the influence of electric transportation. But there's an alarm to be sounded in this wonderful situation. What we're seeing is that there is this very deep concern and very real risk that as we do this, we lose sight of equity. And we that there are many people who are going to be affected by this. A lot of the benefit of the economics benefits and the societal benefits are going to come from this transition. So they'll be left in the past, and they'll continue to incur high costs. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So what status quo? What we're finding already is that there is a equity issue and a climate justice issue that's prevailing. Data already shows that there are substantial segments of our population who pay per rata much more for energy than most other households. And generally those are low income households. There are many reasons. It says my internet connection is unstable, so if I go out, I will come back. I stay at a rural area. It says, but many of these, for a host of socioeconomic reasons, and I have some of those in a few minutes that I'll talk more about, but they are already feeling the effects of heavy energy burdens. They pay more per rata for energy, and here's the issue. In our modern day society where electricity is such a fundamental part of our household, many of these energy burdened households value keeping the lights on more than they do other critical services and features. There is data that says that elderly people will take money away from their prescriptions in order to pay their utility bill to keep the lights on because they think that's more important. And the data is showing that if we don't deal with this issue of energy burdened households, that those already disadvantaged households will be driven deeper into poverty, because with a primary factor being the growing energy burden as we transition to cleaner and renewable energies, because they're not, if we don't put them on this train, they won't get the economic benefits of that. So they will fall farther and farther behind. So that's why I'm really encouraged that you guys are taking this time, you're taking this focus. This is really important, way beyond the policy halls where people talk about these generic issues and put on their nice suit and ties to talk about economics and electric engineering. This is very important to our public health and social well-being. So I don't like to just talk about problems. I like to talk about solutions. And so the solution that's coming about and is beginning to emerge very prominently is this idea of decarbonization, where we're going to reduce the carbon intensity. We're going to lower the amount carbon dioxide from emissions in our everyday lives and applications. This is much of the focus of this is accurately placed on the generation of electricity through fossil fuels. There's incredible focus, attention, research on how we can transition away from these fossil fuel generating sources to renewable sources. And that's why your talk today and this idea of 100% clean energy is so important. But there are incredible landmines and challenges and bumps along the way. And it's really important to understand where they are. You can get over them, but they are very, very much important. You have to understand how to deal with them in order to get over them. But I want to again applaud this chapter and this community for you taking the time to get real clear and real precise about how to deal with this. Now, there are some particular strategies in our beginning. Just the idea of putting a windmill farm out in a field in Kansas, or putting a solar farm in a former cornfield, that's a good thing. But what is now being understood is that old transmission grid is taxed, is almost put at a disadvantage to integrate these newer technologies onto the traditional energy mix. And so an argument that has been made on many occasions is that you can't rely on these renewable energy sources because they would disrupt the traditional energy transmission and distribution process so substantially that it'll make it unreliable. That is a real argument that's put forward by many in the industry. And so what's happening now is some technologies are emerging to address those, I call them fallacious arguments, but they have some kernel of truth. Well, you're starting to see this idea of a microgrid where you put a narrow geographic area and you put renewable energy sources in there and you manage the source, that energy flow in that area from this microgrid rather than the big centralized grid. What we're also finding is that these renewable sources don't generate energy all the time. When the wind goes down, the wind farms shut down. When the sun goes down, the solar panels don't produce. So this technology of energy storage has really jumped on the scene recently, where you develop batteries and battery technologies, really sophisticated battery technologies, to store that energy during the time when they're generating, and then that stored energy can be used at the times when those renewable technologies are down. That's becoming an incredibly important factor. But now we're talking about today about equity. And what is really emerging, and I think is going to be a critical idea, is that these technologies are expensive. There's no avoiding that. And so unless something is done, only the well-to-do, the wealthy, will be able to take advantage of these technologies. So there has to be a definite and a completely intentional strategy to ensure that there's equity across social and economic strata. One of the tools and techniques that's really emerging to be effective in that is this thing called community solar, where you bring together a group of folks. They combine their purchasing power and such, and they put together a unit that can serve a number of people. What we're seeing now is that microgrids with storage and community solar can have important impact in bringing these new technologies to underserved communities. But I want to emphasize very, very, very significantly how much the risk exists, that we really be intentional about developing equitable strategies to bring equity to clean energy transition. Because if we don't, there's a very real risk that we can create a whole new underclass of citizens more pronounced than it is today. Great potential. There are already existing disparities that if we don't figure out how to deal with them, they'll continue to persist. And some of the key elements of the barriers or challenges that are bringing these technologies to underserved communities is the top one always is financial. Most people can't afford these technologies, and particularly the initial investment. Locational, many underserved communities are high multi-dwelling type units, and they haven't been constructed to deal with solar and other kinds of renewable technologies. And so they don't, the structure itself is not sufficient. And then many of them are not oriented properly to get proper angles on the sun to solar panels. Of course, there's poor education awareness in this community. I've been speaking to many groups, and even very astute and intelligent audiences. This is rocket science, and they haven't been involved in a lot. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it only makes sense if we do what you guys are doing today. If you make an intentional effort to educate yourself, to become aware of what's happening and how you can take advantage of it. And then lastly, market. The utility industry, I know there's some on this call today, but I'm just be blunt. The utility industry sees this new transition as a disruptive force in the old utility model. And so there's a lot of dysfunction in the markets and about how to integrate these technologies into the energy world. There's very, very poor marketing of renewable energy, and even worse, availability of legitimate financing programs. And what programs have been developed have unfortunately been abused. So this is an incredible important area to address if you're going to deal with equity in this space. And I'm going fast, so please. But if there's a question or something you don't understand, I'm happy to answer either in the chat or I don't however you choose to do it, Jock. So, like I said, I don't like to just talk about the existence of a problem. I want to talk about solutions. I believe that there are solutions. First of all, you're not alone in addressing this. That they have to figure out this decarbonation approach, and you're seeing all these municipalities, all these states put out these clean energy standards and mandates. They're going to go 100% clean by 2050 or 2030. Until you get to the strategic level and understand how you're going to put action plans in place, those are pretty much just aspirations. Wonderful aspirations. I love it. I'm happy that people are having these conversations. But until you begin to put real strategies on the ground, on paper, and make them work, then those are just conversations. They're emerging around. You're not the only one understanding that the equity is an issue. There are many people around the country and around the world who understand that. And there are some strategies that are emerging about how to bring equity to this clean energy transition. And today, you're performing one of the most effective strategies: grassroots, community level organizing. That has proven to be incredibly important. I'm sorry to say it, but it's true. You can't wait for the political decision makers in your state capital or in Washington to solve this issue for you. The leadership has been at the local level. It will continue to be at the local level. And because of what you're doing today, you're going to be a leader in this whole space. So I absolutely congratulate you in that. How much am I going short on time? I guess.
Yes.
So let me move to the end. So these are some of the strategies I highly encourage you to look at, and just for regional partnerships. Local ownership and control is incredibly important. Workforce development and consumer protection, and just this is very important time. Just 2 more minutes, I'll be done. For public-private partnerships, there are a lot of industrial and philanthropists who've announced that they want to support climate change and clean energy. You, at the local level, I believe, need to be reaching out to these people, figuring out what they're doing. There are a lot of organizations. Let me move, and let me just mention one. Byron Allen. A lot of people don't know who he is. Byron Allen is a former comedian, but he now owns the Weather Channel along with a whole bunch of other investment properties. He is very interested in this conversation of equity in clean energy. And lastly, don't tell me it won't let me go there. Okay, success stories. There are people who are doing this and they're having success at it. One of the groups I really like is called Grid Alternatives. I urge you to Google them. For a short time, I'm going. They're doing some wonderful stuff, particularly this project in Colorado. Solar cooperatives. This is being done around the country. Our outfit called Solar United Neighbors is doing that. Energy Trust. There's an example there in Oregon. There's a wonderful example in District of Columbia where solar They went and put a solar system on a church, and that church is delivering solar energy to low-income households. And then last, Elon Musk is doing some stuff, some real stuff in Austin, Texas. Again, I want to applaud you. I thank you for allowing me this time. I want to encourage you to continue your good work and your enthusiasm, and let's get some stuff done.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that presentation, Mr. Jacobs. Always a wealth of knowledge, especially hearing all the different type of solutions that we can look to. Let's continue to move the conversation along with our next panelist. We'll have Marianne Schmenk. Ms. Schmenk, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jacques. I'm going to, it's a hard act to follow, Mr. Jacobs. He's so knowledgeable. I'm going to talk a little bit about the role of weatherization and energy efficiency in the transition to clean energy, a little bit about what it is, why it's important, how it's related to equity, and some of the sources of services in our community. The weatherization is a kind of big, ugly word. It refers to the effort to keep the conditioned air that we heat and cool inside our homes from leaking out through holes in the walls, so you don't end up paying for wasted energy that just leaks out into the environment. And so that includes things like insulation in the attic and sealing around windows. So that's an important part of the transition, sealing gaps and holes around doors, windows, pipes, and so forth, installing insulation, and also more efficient appliances, a repair and replacement of appliances with more efficient ones. This is relevant to the equity problem because of the energy burden that Mr. Jacobs referred to, which is the household energy bill divided by the mean household income. And that energy burden is higher for low-income households and those led by people of color. And that's just gotten worse with COVID, because people get sick, they lose their jobs, they have more difficulty paying their bills, and everyone is at home more, using more energy and water. Here in Alachua County, we know from a study done in 2017 that low-income homes are paying more than 4 times as much of their income for energy than the whole population. That's because their incomes are lower to begin with, and they're more likely to live in rental housing or older, less efficient houses. We have a lot of homes in Gainesville and Alachua County that were built before the 1980s, when these minimal codes for energy and water were passed. We know from another study by a UF researcher that residents in lower income neighborhoods were using more energy per square foot, primarily due to the age and lack of efficiency of their homes. Nearly all of them, over 90%, had insufficient attic insulation, and 20% had none at all. So the organization that I work with, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm a retired UF professor and a founder and volunteer with the Community Weatherization Coalition. We train volunteers to go into people's homes and help them learn about ways they can reduce their energy and water usage and reduce their energy bills and water bills. So our emphasis is on learning with the residents and helping them find multiple ways to reduce their bills. I'm going to talk about some of the basics of what we do, because that will give you a very concrete idea about what we mean by weatherization and energy efficiency. The CWC volunteers, we're not professionals. We start at the bottom of this pyramid of cost and complexity in conservation measures. So the cheapest things are increasing our understanding, things like changing our behavior so we turn off things when we're not using them. We change the setting on our thermostat to reduce our use of energy. We try to look for Energy Star more efficient appliances when we purchase them, and we try to seal around the doors and windows of our homes. So some of these low cost or no cost measures, including changing light bulbs, can have a significant impact on people's homes. And more other services that are higher up in this pyramid can save even more. These are some of the things that we do in people's homes: changing light bulbs to more efficient ones, changing out the fixtures in sinks and showers to reduce the flow of water, and so forth. So some of the things that we look at are changing the filter on your air handler to make sure that your system is working as efficiently as possible and not clogged up with a lot of dirt. Checking to see how much insulation people have in their attics that can help to weatherize the home and keep the heated and cooled air inside not leaking out. Looking at our water heaters to see if those hot water pipes need insulation or if we need to replace the water heater. Checking under the sink and toilet for leaks. Water leaks can also cost a lot of money if they're let to continue. Looking at the efficiency of our refrigerators, whether we have extra ones that we may not really need that cost a lot of extra dollars for our utility bills, and how to keep them more efficient, such as cleaning the refrigerator coils that can also get clogged and impede the efficiency of the refrigerator's functioning. So these are just some of the things that our volunteers are able to do to give you an idea of what we mean by weatherization. We know that we are having a pretty major impact just by this group of volunteers helping people in their homes, because we've partnered with researchers at UF in the Program for Resource Efficient Communities. They crunched the numbers on over 100 of the homes that we helped from 2010 to 2016. And we found that on average, those homes saved 9% of their water and 10%, over 10% of their use of energy 1 year after we helped them analyze their home energy systems. So it was an average of $255 per year per home that we were able to help people save. And what was interesting is that 3 to 5 years later, their homes were having even greater savings. We did another more in-depth analysis in Greater Duval neighborhood, which is more a low-income, more homogeneous low-income neighborhood. The savings there were even higher, an average of $313. That means in those 103 homes, approximately $32,000 were saved by those homes each year after we helped them. So we know that this is because people feel that they learn something about their homes, they get a better understanding of the measures that they can take, and then they are motivated to do more. This has a pretty major impact. The equivalent of removing 157 cars from the highway each year, thanks to John Nix for this calculation, based on the 1,250 homes we've saved. We've helped to save energy and water so far. So weatherization has a lot of different benefits. Number one, lowering utility bills. It's an opportunity to save money while doing a small part toward the clean energy transition right here in our community. It helps to improve the comfort of homes, helps to stabilize neighborhoods and keep people in their homes, increase the property value. It supports the increase in jobs in energy efficiency, helps people reduce health problems due to pollution and mold in their homes, reducing environmental impacts and carbon emissions, as I mentioned. The bottom line is it helps us to avoid the need to build new power plants by reducing the demand for energy. Just some numbers to show you at the federal level, weatherization is huge savings as an average of $3,000 per household. That's obviously doing more things than our CWC does. Over $1 billion saved. This was as of 2015. And over 7 million metric tons of carbon reduced just from increasing weatherization and energy efficiency in homes across the country. Rental properties should be an important focus of weatherization programs because they are likely to be energy burdened residents and older, less efficient homes. And this is based on a study here in the state of Florida, but most programs unfortunately are limited to homeowners. So the CWC is the only program at the moment that offers services to renters in our community. There are other services. I've listed them here and I'll tell a little bit more about them. Many of them have been geared toward middle income homeowners who like rebates or solar co-ops for people who have the upfront capital to invest in their homes. And as I said, most programs do not provide services to renters. And most of them do have income eligibility requirements and other requirements that may exclude some of the people who need the services. So the Central Florida Community Action Agency is our local federal weatherization assistance program agency. They provide services to low-income homes. They have preference for elderly and disabled people, and this is the main source of federal funding for weatherization assistance. There's also the GRU LEAP program, which can provide support up to $4,000, a little bit more than $4,000. That's only for GRU residential electric customers and only also has other eligibility requirements. But these are very important programs. The problem is that all of these programs combined are not sufficient to reach the scale that we need to help people in our community. And hundreds of thousands of dollars are spent in our community every year by agencies, churches, individuals to help people pay their utility bills that they can't afford to pay. And this contributes to housing and neighborhood instability, especially among low-income and Black residents. And this has only gotten worse with COVID as people get sick, lose their jobs, and everyone is staying home more, using more energy and water. There is a potential for additional funding for weatherization from the American Rescue Plan funds that are available for all of our cities and counties. And those local governments are deciding right now how to use these funds. There is a lot of discussion of using some of them to support weatherization expansion in our community. I just want to end with a little bit of a plug for the CWC. If you're interested in becoming a volunteer and working with us, I've been a volunteer since 2008. It's really fun and interesting. And we'll be having an energy training in November. These are the dates, and I'll give you the contact information in just a second. And I tried to keep this brief because I know we're a little bit behind time. This is the contact information if you want to contact me or the Community Weatherization Coalition directly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marianne. What a wonderful presentation. It's such amazing amount of information, really important stuff to know. And I'm really thankful you shared that with us this morning. And I've been seeing a lot more engagement happening in the chat box, which is amazing. And as soon as we wrap up with our overall panel conversation, all of our attendees will have the opportunity to start diving in deeper on each of those topics that we are talking about. Now, our next presenter that we have is John Nix. Mr. Nix, please start us off. You'll talk to us a little bit about the role of food systems in this transition. Mr. Nix, please give us a quick introduction and, of course, the presentation that you've prepared with us for us today.
Thank you, Jock. Jock, I'd like to share my screen, if you will, please.
She's always finding new places to explore.
Let me take care of that for you right now, Mr. Nix. All righty, there you go.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm John Nix. I am a local farmer, and also I'm working as an energy conservation engineer for the Alachua County Schools. I'm here to talk to you today about something that's very, very important to me because I love the land, and I want to make sure that the future generations have a chance to enjoy our environment as much as I have. And I'm going to talk to you about moving equitably toward a local and sustainable food system. A food system is a very complicated system. It involves a lot of things. The key words that I want to talk to you today about is sustainability, local, and equitable. Those are some of the things that I think is very, very important. First of all, I want to go back and just talk about equity and talk about sustainable for a minute. What is a sustainable food system? There's a lot of different definitions for that, but the main point of a sustainable food system is to promote health. It is to the public. It also should be economically feasible for all the people involved. That's the farmers and the producers and the distributors. And also, just as important, it should be fair to the earth and to the environment. We want to make sure that when we produce a system, that the system doesn't take away more than it's giving. We want to make sure that a sustainable food system is also making sure that we're not taking the resources away from future generations. And it guards against depleting our resources. And that's what we mean by sustainable. It's a way that makes sure that the future generations don't suffer for something that we do today. Moving to the next slide, we're gonna talk about what it means to be equitable. That's to create something that everyone can enjoy. It's a system that doesn't leave out anyone. So a sustainable food system should also have a social component to it, a component where everyone in the cycle is taken care of. That means we don't have these food deserts. We don't have places where there's no grocery stores, where people have to walk so far to get food. We want to make sure that the sustainable system has a social component in it that works for everyone. Next, we want to make sure that it's local. And when we talk about a local sustainable food system, there's a lot of components that we talk about. And we're going to start with growing. You know, when we grow sustainable, there's things that I do out at my farm. For example, I reduced the amount of pesticides that I use for getting rid of bugs. I don't use harmful pesticides in the soil. Secondly, I do something called no-till. I reduce the amount of soil erosion by using a no-till type of plow on my grounds when I do my grass. I also try very hard always to make sure that I don't waste water when I irrigate the crops. I use no drip irrigation so that I don't use water runoffs. And I try to make sure that I don't do erosion into my ponds. So growing, there's sustainable methods that we can do there also. And then we move to transporting the food. When we have a local food system, we want to buy local so that we reduce the amount of transportation, the amount of gas that we have to use to bring a cantaloupe from California. So we want to use as much as we can. We want to do things like eat things that's in season in our area. And also in retailing, we want to buy from stores that support our local farmers. You know, one that definitely comes to mind locally is Ward's. And we want to make sure that we support those type of retailers and farmers and restaurants that support our local farmers. And then eating, you know, we want to make sure that we can do things like even grow our own gardens. And people to buy from people that serve the food that they grow in their gardens. When I was growing up, we had a food truck, a vegetable truck that would come around, and that would bring local foods right to our neighborhoods. And then after our foods, we want to make sure that continuing our local food system, we want to make sure that we do things like composting. We want to reduce the amount of trash and that we put into our landfills. So all of these things, growing, transporting, retailing, eating, disposing of things that we don't eat, all these things make up a local sustainable food system. Moving to the next, I'd like to just talk about how we do that. Just some things that it takes a team, it takes individuals, and then we want to find out where we fit. What can we do to help make our food system more sustainable? There's 10 things. There's a lot more, but there's 10 things I want to talk about, and we'll talk about that local production and consumption. That's very important. That's where it kind of starts at. If we can buy local and also eat local, that really helps us. Again, it takes out some of the food, the fuel that's necessary to bring things over. We want to encourage cooking. Let's go back and let's start cooking our own food again. Let's do things like on our production side. Let's do things like rotating our crops and making sure that our land, that our soil is taken care of. And I mentioned no-till irrigation, no-till plowing, so that we're reducing the erosion that occurs. We want to make sure that we encourage reducing less waste. You know, about 40% of all our food that we consume goes to landfills. That's a lot of waste. That's a lot that gets thrown away. So we want to kind of start reducing what we do with our waste. We want to design menus again around the seasons. You know, when wintertime in our area, collard greens are something that grows. We know sweet corns. We have Florida, we're so lucky we can have 3 seasons of sweet corn. So there's a lot of things that's grown locally that we can just take advantage of and make sure that we're not just buying things that's not in season. We want to make sure there's fair trade in a good sustainable system. That means that we want to make sure that our workers are taken care of, that we don't take advantage of workers that pick our our vegetables and things, we want to make sure that they fairly are paid correctly and it's treated in a fair manner. We invest financially. You know, our county and our city government have done a great job of supporting programs that help invest into our food system. There was many programs that has kind of been mentioned that our county has to distribute food. There's a lot of local organizations and private organizations that invest their time. We want to make sure that we avoid additives and as I mentioned before, pesticides and go as much organic and natural as we can. We want to, again, make sure, as I mentioned before, the true cost of food is understood, that the true cost goes all the way through to the composting, to what we throw away. So we want to make sure that we understand that and that we can waste less. And lastly, let's forego some convenience sometimes. Sometimes we want to make sure that we do the things that might not be as convenient to go to, say, a big box store. We might want to go a little extra and go to somewhere that's helping our local farmers. And let's also grow our own gardens. Let's sometimes go out there and work and grow our own food. I'm really lucky to work in a school system, Lachue County Schools, that have our own farms, and we grow a lot of our own foods that our kids eat in the cafeterias. So I want to make sure that those kinds of things we can do to help the situation. So we're growing locally, farmer markets, selling locally, supporting our producers and our state supported programs and our federal supported programs. We're doing a lot here in Alachua County and in the areas. There's a lot of programs that's available. I'm really, really glad to see things like trying to create a grocery store in East Gainesville to get rid of some of the food deserts. We have the county has a coalition of food systems people that we meet on a regular basis to talk about what we can do in our different organizations to promote food. There's a lot of federal programs. IFAS is a big one that's federally supported. We have our Buy Fresh program from the state. So there's a lot of things that are out there. But what I want to say that we need to bring them together. We need to have aggregation so that we can come out with a common theme to make all these things work together better. And lastly, I want to say that it takes a team to do it right, to bring everything together. We need consumers that understand the value of local foods. We need producers that do things in a sustainable way. We need distribution. We need stores that's willing to go out and buy local. The University of Florida is doing a great job of working and trying to create a distributor for local foods. We need education. Our county is doing a great job of educating the public. We're doing things in our school system to show our kids at an early age how gardening programs that we have in our schools. And we need financiers. We need banks and we need government programs that can help finance the small farmer and help finance farmer markets and grocery stores. So what I'm going to leave you with today is what is your position? How can you best play on this team? You could be a consumer, you're a producer, a distributor, or educator, or financer, but it takes a whole team to make sure that we have a local, sustainable, and equitable food system. And thanks a lot. It's a great opportunity to talk to you about this. And again, it's a very, very passionate part of what I do every day. This last picture is a picture of me there at my farm. And I love the farming. I love the educating. And I just love having an opportunity to talk to you today about something that's very important and very complex. Our food system, there's a lot of subsystems that go with this, and it's going to take a team. It's going to take aggregation of all of us working together to make sure that we do have this local, sustainable, and equitable food system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nix. Thank you so much, John. That was amazing, an amazing presentation about something very complex, which is our food system, intertwined with so many other things and very key when it comes to transitioning toward clean energy. Our last panel presenter will talk about a topic that each of our previous presenters have highlighted, which is equity and justice. I will now open the floor to Ms. Denise Abdul-Rahman. Denise, would you please give us a quick introduction of who you are, and then, of course, jump into the presentation that you prepared for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jacques. And I want to say good morning. It's such an honor to be here. And thank you to President Fox and to ECJ Chair Cha and all the members of the branch, as well as to any dignitaries and the community broadly, and to my colleague, Jacques. My name is Denise Abdul-Rahman, and I serve as a regional field organizer for the National NAACP. And a lot of my passion is around clean energy. So I was asked to provide a frame for all to consider to move equity into all aspects of this work. And I first just want to indicate that equity means different things to different people and to different communities. And therefore, it's recommended that you begin a process that creates a shared understanding as to what equity means to your county or to your respective locales. And you might also consider utilizing the James principles, which were developed in December 1996 at a meeting in the James, New Mexico. And it was with the intention of hammering out a common understanding between participants of different cultures and politics and organizations. And I'm turning my timer on so I could be as succinct as possible. And also it has an emphasis of bottom-up organizing, letting people speak for themselves and working together in solidarity and mutuality and building just relationships among ourselves, and to have a commitment to self-transformation. And my presentation will be around the examples of environmental injustice and the possible ways to create a just transition. So I'll first just start out with that. The NAACP looks at environmental injustices that includes climate change, and that it has a disproportionate impact on communities of color and low income in the United States and around the world. And the program was created to provide resources and to support community leadership in addressing this human and civil rights issue, and to advocate for three basic objectives. One is to reduce harmful emissions, particularly greenhouse gases, to shut down coal plants, to stop the building of new toxic facilities, and to organize advocacy that strengthens the development and monitoring and enforcement of federal, state, and local levels. And this also includes a focus on corporate responsibility and accountability. And we also work to advance energy efficiency and clean energy Also at the state levels, campaigns that will pass renewable energy and energy efficiency standards while working at the local level with small businesses and unions and others, and developing demonstration projects that ensures that the communities of color are accessing the revenue generation opportunities in the new energy economy, while providing safer and more sustainable mechanisms for managing energy needs for our communities and beyond. We also work to strengthen the community's livability. And so by that, we work to ensure that communities are equipped to engage in sustainability and climate action planning that integrates policies and practices on advancing food justice, advocating for transportation equity, and upholding civil and human rights in emergency management, and facilitate a participatory democracy. I'd like to next just utilize a video that really kind of epitomizes what environmental injustice looks like. And this was before the pandemic, basically how we just cannot breathe.
The city of Baytown is made of old money, lower to middle class families, and pollution. But if you get a job at a chemical plant, you don't have time to think of a solution. I guess my brother, my uncle, and my cousins are sellouts because they went industrial instead of the drug route. Refinery city lights and pipes run along the Gulf Coast. The smoke boasts with sulfur air. It's a wonder anyone's able to take a breath. We're so used to it, we forget. Soon, the sons and daughters won't be able to drink the water. They say the first priority is the people, but the people are the ones being excluded and uprooted. Just ask Archicords, ask George Washington Carver Elementary, or ask the Suburbanites. Exxon Sacrifice, AKA Brownwood Neighborhood. God bless social media, but Flint ain't the only case of complexion without protection. Baytown, AKA the Dirty Bay, is surrounded by giant toxins, threatening the city in every way. We see the huge still from our window sills, make jokes as we choke. We've been possibly dying from this kind of poison oak. It's no mystery that the Black and brown communities are being targeted. Black lives matter, but not when they're expendable and making money is good for the market. Give them a fine, it's fine. They can afford it. We live with the headaches, the shortness of breath, and watery eyes. They keep building, and we pay for it. Constantly trying to heal ourselves and repel the environmental destruction. Breathe it in, then breathe out.
Sorry, 1 second here. That again is just showing where many of our communities are at, and then we're looking for a just transition. I identify as someone of African descent, and many of us have endured our ancestors' transatlantic slave trade and have been seeking a just transition. We've endured enslavement. We've endured Jim Crow, redlining, Jim Crow's brother, James Crow, who seeks to identify our children by the time they're in the 3rd grade to go to the school to prison pipeline. Many of our communities are over-policed. Our educational systems are under-resourced. We live in blighted and dilapidated housing, underemployed and unemployed. We have been the essential workers disproportionately impacted by COVID, the hosters of polluting systems, such as fossil fuel, vehicle emissions, and most disproportionately impacted and vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. And I'm gonna try to conclude. I have that I'm about at 7 minutes. But I want to play another quick video. It's a little dated, but this video, it really epitomizes cultural competency. It utilizes music, and it shows our vision of possibility for our communities.
The thing about hip hop today is it's smart, it's insightful.
Let hip hop lead the way to a great future.
We could see a much deeper economic downturn.
Global warming is real.
Fires have been fueled by a high rate of asthma stated by Katrina.
Were sure to follow, and now they are.
Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment.
Yeah, I make the track sound good. And do that, got a message for the hood. It's time to go green, we gotta go green. The food ain't fresh and the air ain't clean. From the hood to the birds, everybody go scream.
Dr. King, we live in your dream. My president is black, but it's going green. So my president is black, but it's going green. I said my president is black, but it's going green. I got my president back, and I'm gonna do the same
Now why
thing.
your little cousin got asthma? Auntie got cancer. I know you know the problem, but you never knew the answer. You want the answer? Listen to my stanza. When it come to cold, they be stripping like a dancer. Who the company and who the boss like Tony Dancer? Maybe one day we probably get a chance to have a conversation about conservation. He'd rather condemnation, for compensation. Look, I'm from the hood. We need better food and better air. You probably wouldn't never care. You ain't never there. Rappers never rap about it. They rather act hard while these companies doing toxic in my backyard. I'm from the hood. The refinery ain't that far. Something like my neighbor ain't doing me no favors. We need more classes, not more sales. Man, we need green jobs. We don't need no jails. I said it's time to go green. We gotta go green. The food ain't fresh and the air ain't clean. From the hood to the birds, everybody go scream.
Dr. King, we live in your dream. My president is black, but it's going green. So my president is black, but it's going green. I said my president is black, but it's going green. I got my president back, and I'm gonna do the
To
same
put the
thing.
people that most need work with the work that most need done. We need funds. We can harness the sun. We can harness the wind. We can create jobs for my family and friends. And when I say I'm going green to the hood, it sounds funny, but I'm talking about saving the earth and getting money. I'm talking about hundreds, thousands of M's. Do that, go pull up in a hybrid on rims. So when I hit the block, y'all, the song go knock y'all. Car on E, but the car won't stop y'all. It's electric, so it's guaranteed to shock y'all. Yeah, I'm going green and I'm straight from the block, y'all. I want the green Bentley, I ain't talking about the paint. I'm talking about the one with biofuel in the tank. So many leaders paved the way for the leaders of today. These are shoulders that we stand on, now we all hands on.
America can create millions of well-paid, green-collar jobs. We can make our streets safer and our communities healthier. We can save the planet for our children and our children's children. That is the promise of a green economy.
It's time to go green, we gotta go green. The food ain't fresh and the air ain't clean. From the hood to the birds, everybody go scream.
Dr. King, we live in your dream. My president is black, but it's going green. So my president is black, but it's going green. I said my president is black, but it's going green. I got my president back, and I'm gonna do the same thing.
And we will put Americans to work, making our homes and buildings more efficient so that we can save billions.
Sorry to cut off the former president. And just kind of wrapping up, I'm going to speed through my presentation, but we work on a just transition frame that's really about stopping the bad and building in the new if we want to focus on, equity. Also the NAACP, we call for many different things as it relates to energy, a mandatory renewable portfolio standard with 25% by 2025. It doesn't include nuclear or biomass. There's others, which I'll be happy to share my PowerPoint, and also calling for 2,000 kilowatts of solar panels, allowing for fair chance jobs for those that are returning or formerly incarcerated, and minority business enterprises and women business enterprise contract opportunities, and allowing for mandatory legislation allows for communities to take advantage of solar energy, whether each have solar panels or not. And then just more pictures around the job opportunities. Our chairman right here from the very great state of Florida, Chairman Leon Russell, and our president and CEO doing a demonstration project on a domestic violence center and had domestic survivors of violence helping to build the solar project. There's so many energy efficiency jobs, fastest growing in our nation. African Americans pay about $41 billion to the energy sector, but only hold 1% of the energy jobs. And then around the globe, the jobs are about 9.8 billion in clean energy job potential. There's wind jobs, of course. And then I'm going to close, and we hold about 7% now in the solar worker jobs. And then I'll ask you to just close your eyes and imagine placing solar on your homes, in your communities, your faith institutions, your schools. Now imagine the local jobs that a person with no transportation can access. Imagine the affordability of electric energy. Imagine how much money the faith institutions can save and give back toward their mission. Imagine the funds saved by schools that go toward children's education and so much more, like the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, and how much more equitable and just the system would be. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Denise. Very powerful. And thank you to all of our panelists. So it is now 10:32. This ends our first section, which is for our panel presentations. We will now move into our breakout sessions. And we have a few facilitators that I would like to introduce prior to our breakout session. Before going in, and I believe that our team in the back here, we have Tristan and Roberta doing some of the background work. I believe they've already, you all have already been pre-assigned maybe to some groups, but however that piece goes, we are hoping that each of you all will be moving collectively from one topic to the next as a team. So it will be a cohort. So from the first topic, energy, weatherization, or food systems, whichever you end up choosing as your first, of course. So once you get around to doing the first round of introduction, you won't need to repeat that again. And then as we move throughout, we hope to be able to break down deeper some of the conversation that our panel presenters highlighted to us. And we've also have a few questions that we have already put together to guide some of our conversation. So our first facilitator that we have that will be in the energy portion is Susan Glickman. And Susan has worked on climate and energy issues for more than 2 decades. She's currently a consultant to the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, Florida Clinicians for Climate Action, and Alianza. Susan has worked with many national organizations such as Natural Resources Defense Council, the Climate Group, Series, Union of Concerned Scientists, Center for Climate Integrity, and our Climate Trust. More locally, Susan helped to initiate the Tampa Bay Regional Resiliency Coalition, working with Pinellas County Commissioner Janet Long. She's on Tampa Mayor Jane Castro Sustainability and Resiliency Advisory Team. She is on the steering committee of the East Central Florida Regional Resiliency Collaborative and serve on the Sustainability and Resilience Advisory Team for Orange County. Susan is also a board member of SELF Solar Energy Loan Fund, which finances weatherization and home improvements. With Susan, we also have Olivia Ned. Olivia is the policy director for Access and Equity Program for Vote Solar. In this role, she works to support Vote Solar's policy and regulatory work to advance a more equitable and just clean energy future. Prior to joining Vote Solar, Olivia worked with Florida conservation voters, where she led a statewide campaign to bring electric school buses to low-income and communities of color. For our food systems conversation, we have Aviva Asher. Aviva Asher is a farmer and educator from Philadelphia. She has been working in sustainable agriculture and the food movement for nearly 20 years throughout the US and Nicaragua. She's led high school students in growing nutritious food for their communities, and most recently co-directed the Mill Creek Urban Farm in Philadelphia and the Westgate Community Farm in West Palm Beach. Both are educational urban farms striving to make healthy and culturally relevant food accessible in their neighborhoods. She has settled in Southeast Gainesville with her family, where she works alongside her husband at their own farm, Nicoya Farm, growing vegetables that they sell at downtown Gainesville Farmers Market. I will be assisting Aviva in that breakout session, which I'm super excited about. And lastly, our other 2 facilitators, and those are for the weatherization breakout session, is Jason Foltz. Is an educator and is currently pursuing a Master of Education with specialization in educational technology at the University of Florida. He's been an Alachua County resident for over 13 years. Jason has a wide range of experience, including work as an apprentice, a journeyman electrician, and an apprentice instructor with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. He has worked since 2009 with the Community Weatherization Coalition, a grassroots community coalition focused on improving home weatherization and energy efficiency for low-income households throughout education and volunteer work projects. Jason is also a board member and past chair of the Alachua County Labor Coalition, where he helped lead campaigns related to a living wage and renters' rights. And with that, we also have Mandy Lee that will be partnering with Jason. And Mandy is deeply passionate about community-driven climate, food, and environmental justice initiatives, and the infrastructure and policy that allows them to thrive. She currently facilitates a network of 500 plus NAACP members and professionals from the green building industry who are striving for a just transition to a healthy, sustainable, regenerative, and resilient building for all. In her prior role at the U.S. Green Building Council, she supported the improvement of the LEED rating system for sustainable buildings with a focus on social equity and international applicability. She has also studied and worked on climate change resilience and equity initiatives from the local to national scale in the US and East Africa. So thank you so much to all of our facilitators, and that once again ends the portion of our panel presentation, and we will now transition over to our breakout sessions. Looking forward to having the conversation with you all there. Tristan, if you would please, could you break us up accordingly?
I got my team. It's definitely not an Inquanda. I learned more than everybody else, but hey, it's been fun. I got a great team.
And Quantum, this is Yvette. May I ask a question?
Sure.
Were the breakout groups, I didn't get an opportunity to decide. Was I just chosen to do energy because of where I work?
Not at all.
Okay.
This is just where you start. You're
Okay.
gonna
I get to do all of them. Okay.
Yes. You just happen to be in on the first one, and I think that they chose by numbers, just 1, 2, 3.
Perfect. Okay.
I didn't do that either. The team did that.
Okay. Because I was like, man, I hear about this at work every day. I want to learn about food. Okay, thank you.
So is Jason? No, this is not Jason. Susan. Susan here.
I don't see her. She might have gotten put into another breakout room.
Oh. Okay. Who's our? Yes.
This is
Yes.
She's our energy facilitator, and there's one other person with her.
There's Susan. Now.
hi, Susan.
I guess I was in the wrong one, Olivia. I was looking for you. Okay.
Y'all scared me there for a second.
No, they had me in the other group. Okay, all good.
All right, so I guess we can kick it off. So my name is Olivia Ned, and as Jack stated, I'm the policy director on the Access and Equity team at Vote Solar, and I will be leading the equity discussion, equity portion of this discussion, and I'll let Susan go ahead and introduce herself quickly.
Yeah, and you had a long introduction. So I'm Susan Glickman, and as Jacques said, the most relevant things, I've been working for more than 2 decades on climate and energy issues with awesome people like Leon Jacobs and others. So this cohort of people are going to go through the 3 different sessions all together. So this is the one session where everyone gets to introduce it, or each other. So in the interest of time, let's get started and go ahead. Leon, you already sort of introduced yourself, but say hi, and then we'll just keep popping around the room, and then we'll get to the questions.
Great. Good morning. Hi, everybody. Good to be with you.
Great. Sean, you want to say hi?
Hi, I'm Sean.
Hi.
I'm from Alachua County. I'm the Strategic Initiatives Manager. Good to be here.
Great. And how about Connie Lee? How are you, Connie?
Hello, Susan. Connie Lee. I'm with the Alachua County branch NAACP and St. Peter, St. Paul Community Council.
Great. Deirdre?
Good morning. I'm Deidre Houchin, the Equity and Community Outreach Manager for Alachua County.
Great. And hey, Bob, how are you?
Hi, Susan. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Tanzik. I'm a member of the Environmental Climate Justice Committee, and I guess I represent Citizens Climate Lobby and Climate Reality Project. Thank you.
Great. Yvette?
Good morning. I'm Yvette Carter, and I'm actually a part of most of the groups who are sponsoring today. Racial Justice Committee, NAACP. I also work at Gainesville Regional Utilities.
Great. Great. Let's see, Lynn?
Hi, I'm Lynn Frazier. I'm with the League of Women Voters, and the presentations have been great today. I probably know less about all these topics than anybody here, just trying to learn. Thank you.
Great. This is like an eyesight test. I just want you to know. So Gail, I'm like squinting a little there. Gail?
I'm Gail Stallings. I'm here really as an individual, but I'm also the clerk of Gainesville Quakers Earth Care and Social Concerns Committee. So I will be bringing this information back to them, and I'm looking to see what I can learn and how I can contribute.
Great. And one more, I know there's an extra Roberta, and
and Roberta's going to be shocked to find out that she's changed color, but I'm Vivian Filer, and I came in on another instrument and they changed my name to Vivian, and I came in on this one and I'm Roberta again. But I chair the health committee for NAACP. I am also the chair and founder of the Cotton Club Museum and Cultural Center, and I am a person very much interested in environmental change and have done a lot, attended a lot of meetings with Conda.
Very good. Jeff?
Yes, I'm Jeff Shapiro. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'm the local issues chair of the League of Women Voters of Alachua County, and on the NAACP ECJC committee with Nkwanda.
Great. Nkwanda, I don't know that you need to introduce yourself, but go for that because you're the awesomest.
I think almost everybody on here knows who I am. I just want to say again, thank you all so very much for coming and participating today. I'll say that again before it's over.
Miss JC?
Yes, I'm Diayoka JC. I'm in the Manioka community. I'm also co-founder for the Ayoka Gifts International African Cultural Center. I'm just so happy that this is being recorded because so many of our individuals who wanted to be a part of this are attending funerals today. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to setting up a microgrid in the Manioka community. And I've had many challenges. I have a solar system, but I've had challenges. So I'm looking forward to learn how I can get solutions to those issues. Thank you.
That's great. One more, you mentioned recording. I don't see this recording. So Tristan, I don't know if you can do that or can give permission. Great.
Recording in progress.
Great. Thank you for that. Yeah. And Stephen?
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Steve Hostetter. I'm the Alachua County's Environmental Protection Director.
Oh, fantastic. Great. And we're all grateful to Tristan, who didn't actually introduce himself, but you're keeping us technically together here. Yeah, thank you for that. So great. Let's get started. There are 3 questions that we're going to pose. Olivia, do you want to start us off there with the first question?
Yeah, sure. So the first question is, what is the path to reaching an equitable future of 100% clean electricity? So it would be really good, just off the tops of your heads, what do you think needs to happen in order to achieve that goal equitably in your county?
And the one thing I would add to that is there's sort of the technical, how do you achieve this? And then there's the political will of it, right? The willingness to do that. So you may have some thoughts on either one of those sides of that. So I saw a hand go up. That's Jeff.
Yes, I look at it in terms of supply and demand. The technical deals more with the supply of affordable and sustainable electricity, for example. And then the demand depends on people to be aware, to be aware of what they can demand and to, for example, put their best into sustainability and into using sustainable power.
Great. Sean?
I think, you know, if we depend upon the utilities to provide the answer to this, they're going to fail. That will probably leave out a lot of individuals. So I think we need to be pressing the utilities to allow for more distributed solutions. So on more roof decks, on smaller spaces, that has to be, you know, considerations.
Great. And it's, I think everyone knows, but along the bottom, there's a feature that says reactions. And if you just click on it, you can raise your hand. So is Miss Vivian, you have your hand up. Great.
I do, and I agree with what has been said, but it's been my educational piece for my own self to say, that was a good sentence, to if the people at the grassroots don't understand it, then we can't go anywhere with it. So it's finding a way to bring this information down to the level where the folks need it, hear it in their own language, in their own space, so that then they begin to buy in to what we're offering. We on this call or on this Zoom meeting, we understand where we're going, even though we're in the process of learning. We're all at the same place with wanting to learn and know more. But I know people down the street who still will not use the recycling bins. And I'm thinking, what is it going to take to get them to understand the process and what the process means? So we've got to devise a way to reach the neighbor that needs it the most, but doesn't understand it as well.
Could I ask Vivian, do you have an idea of what are those tangible ways to deliver that? Like I've seen some communities do like flyers. Do you have an idea of what would work best for the folks in your community?
Barring the pandemic that we're living through, I think face-to-face in your community education is the best. People go to their churches, they go to their places of worship, sometimes door to door, neighbor to neighbor, neighborhood associations. A lot of Black neighborhoods and low-income neighborhoods are organized and listen to their leaders. So being a part of that, and then having some tangible way of showing somebody who has a solar and what it's done for them, testimonies to the people who you're trying to reach. These kind of things will be more one-on-one. We sometimes listen to those that we value their leadership skills and value their position as in our minister, as in people that we trust. But we have to root those people out in the community and get them to buy in and understand. And then maybe down, and then of course, use them to go down the line. Those are some of the things that I would suggest. I don't know all the answers. I wish I did, but I've been on this road a long time. And I know that just having the meeting at town hall doesn't reach the people really need to know.
Good point. Ms. JC, why don't you go, and then Deidre and Leon.
Yes, I agree 1,000% with Auntie Vivian, what she just said. And I tried to do that by leading by example. I had a solar system placed on my property so that my community would see and follow suit. But it's really important that when we do that, that we have successes, because it's word of mouth that works. But in my case, I have not had a great success. So I can, folks are asking me all the time, what is that in your yard? But yet I can't encourage them to be a part until I can get a system that works for me also.
Yeah, Deidre?
I'm interested in us demystifying the supply chain. I just feel like the more I'm learning, which is not a lot yet, about solar energy and other renewable sources, the more I hear about limitations, and I don't really understand them. So some kind of graphic that gives us that supply chain and helps us see what's possible feels like a really important piece of knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Leon? Oh, you're on mute.
Auntie Vivian, you may not have all the answers, but you got some good ones.
Thank you.
That is so much the recipe for what has to happen. But there's some underlying issues. So what's happening right now is a tug of war between something called utility grade solar and residential. And without getting too deep into the weeds, bottom line of that conversation is who will get the benefit of what is clearly an economic advantage for doing solar. And so it's not so much whether or not we do solar, is who gets the benefit of it. Because if you drive up and down our highways right now, you're seeing massive solar farms being put in place. And I understand that's an issue. That's one of the issues that's in Archer, they're putting in a solar farm. Well, utilities are putting in these solar fields. And unfortunately, I'm not sitting in the room with them, but I can really believe, based on my regulatory background, what's going to happen is those facilities are going to get wrapped in a baggage called rate base. That's how utilities make money. That's how they print money. And they're going to take on all the overhead and bureaucracy of a major bureaucracy. And I'm concerned that the homeowners, people like you, will see few of the real benefits of those solar facilities. I think the best opportunity for you to get benefit is to have local ownership, as I indicated, and have it on your house. I'm sorry, but I also recognize, Ms. JC, that your experience is very, very common to too many people. And I think this is something that the solar industry has to come to grips with. They have to figure out what makes sense for a homeowner, the best technology and the best strategy for a homeowner to do to get the benefit of solar. Now, I can tell you the great issue there is this thing called net metering that was spoke of. Net metering is the idea that if you generate more electricity with your unit than you use in your house, then you can sell that excess back to the grid and back to the utility. That's like a line in the sand for the utilities. They have pitched a war against net metering, and it consequently it is hampered and hyped the real meaningful deployment of solar in my mind. And so it has been an uphill and an unequal battle for homeowners to get real economic advantage from putting a high-priced solar unit on the house. We got to deal with that. Now, one thing that was done that I think is really important, and I brought this up many occasions, there was a project called the Solar Weatherization Program, done many years back, like 10, 15 years back. What they did is they went to low-income housing units and low-income housing. They put solar hot water heaters on those units, just a hot water heater. Just that, though, saw, I think, Susan, correct me, I think it was like between 18 and 20% reduction in household utility bills. That's when you get the attention that Auntie Vivian talked about. That's when people see, hey, this is doing something that makes sense. So we need to do baby steps like that. If we can't go out and do massive solar units on houses, let's do baby steps. Somebody mentioned about faith-based. One of the most unique projects I've heard of was done in District of Columbia. A church in a Black community put a solar unit on the church and then started to sell that power to people in that community who are energy burdened. Those are some of the steps I think we can begin to take now, some baby steps we can begin to take now and push so that people begin to understand more holistically why this makes economic sense. And then I think you'll see some more important uptake.
Leon, your comments are a good bridge to the second question about how do we implement a just transition in Alachua County. So I want to keep that notion of who benefits there, because that's really important. I've said for many years, the secret sauce to all this is the financing. So when a big utility builds a power plant, they put it on your bill and you pay for it. On the other hand, the Anheuser-Busch distributor where I live in Pinellas County got solar, paid for it. Now this is big solar, 1.5 megawatts on their cold storage facility. They paid for it in 5.15 years. So he gets 25 years of free electricity. So what Leon is saying is we want families, we want small businesses to get that same right kind of benefit. So let's transition to, so how do we implement this? How do we make sure that everybody benefits from that? And so I just want to punctuate one thing, which is the financing. I'm on the board of Solar Energy Loan Fund. It's a mission-driven lender to bring affordable financing to people that can't afford. So that's just one example. I think it builds on what Mary Ann's presentation today was on the Community Weatherization Coalition. But if someone needs a new roof or new air conditioner, you can reduce your energy bill by about 23% with the high efficiency air conditioner. So if we can finance those and you pay them off in, let's say it's 3 years, then you reduce your bills. So financing is a tool for a just transition. Who else wants to jump in on what's the just transition? Yeah, Jeff? You're on mute.
Yes, Susan, I fully agree with what you're saying. I just put a solar unit on my roof because I could afford it. It'll take me 20 years or so to pay that off in terms of savings on my energy bill. The part of the problem also is that it doesn't benefit me directly. The power goes into the grid. It goes directly into the grid. Even when the grid shuts down, I have no power because it's going into the grid. It doesn't go into my house unless I have a battery, which costs another $10,000 to $20,000. So that's a lot of money to pay. And you're right, the financing is really key to all this. And the second part of it is the resistance that, like GRU hasn't started my solar unit yet. It's taking them a long time. I suspect that there's some resistance there. So those are some components. Thank you.
Yeah, I just read that Duke was holding up the final approvals during COVID. I mean, something kind of under the table, but so the fact that they haven't hooked you up yet. Connie, you've got your hand up. There's a couple hands up, and I don't know if that's from before or not. So I don't want to miss you. Connie?
Yeah, I want to comment on that when you get a minute.
Yeah.
I just want to add to the conversation. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I agree with Chairman Russell. And I think there needs to be a program or some kind of solution for financing solar panels for homes for low income and middle income families. Some middle income cannot afford solar energy. And those large utility solar plants, they are not the answer. They're the answer for utility companies to make profits, but they are not the answer becoming 100% renewable energy.
Very good. What I know, Leon, you wanted to say something. Ms. JC, did you want to say something again?
No, it's still up.
Got from before.
Yes.
Great. Is there who else wants to weigh in on
I did, Susan.
Okay, great.
I'm really glad to hear that Leon Russell is focused on this, because I think there are multiple avenues that can happen right now. And unfortunately, in Florida, we have been and it's not irrational. It's not irrational that we have been glued to the very whims of the utilities because they have economic and political and market power. But I am absolutely convinced that this is a moment where we have to figure out how to make transformative and innovative solutions come to the table. There's so much interest and so much conversation and so much money being directed to climate change and justice issues at the national level that it has to become a factor in Florida. So I think an important thing that can be done at the national level is bringing some of these philanthropists and corporate interests into a room to say, okay, we love that you guys have this interest. Now let's talk strategy. Let's talk specific avenues by which you can get this done. Some of them are already done. Jeff Bezos has committed $10 billion. I want to know who in Florida is getting that money and what they're doing with it. Okay. I want to know Bill Gates has committed billions of dollars. I want to know who in Florida is getting access to that at the local level and putting it on the ground. So that's the one conversation. The next thing that's happening is actual strategic plans at a project. Community solar is clearly emerging as the most succinct strategy for the moment to get broader access to solar in low-income communities. But the utilities are already at war with that. So I believe we got to get some pilot projects for community solar and microgrids in Florida. I'm going to state this today. I believe Gainesville and Tallahassee should be two of the places where those pilot projects should be. I'm sitting on right now. There's a steering group in Tallahassee trying to get some money from a national group to do a project in Tallahassee for solar and low and moderate income households. Right now, the thinking for that steering group is to get that money as an education and marketing effort for this. Not a bad idea, but I'm so over talking about this issue. If we're going to do something, do a pilot project that works that we can then scale to more communities. So, yeah. And the examples out there, I put some of them up in my presentation, but there are people out there who are doing this. It is time now for us to reach beyond the conversations with, keep utilities at the table, keep local decision makers at the table, but we as local grassroots people got to reach out to these national and international networks to bring resources to the table to get these projects done in your community. You need right now, given the kind of momentum and impetus you guys have now, you guys are a classic example of a place where a project like this ought to be done.
So we got a couple hands up, and I know they're going to pull us into another room. And also, there is the electrification of transportation. It's not only solar, and there are big decisions being made now about where charging infrastructure goes. And what we don't want is another digital divide about the electrification. So I just throw that out there. So Yvette and Wanda, after that, Yvette Carter.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to ask Mr. Jacobs or any of the experts in the room, what would be the twist or the, I don't know the right word, but from our vantage point, I know you're talking about a lot about the Dukes, the IOUs, the investor-owned utilities, but in Gainesville and Alachua County, the majority of our population energy is being provided by a municipal utility, Gainesville Regional, and Clay Electric, a co-op. So how does that change this conversation at all, or how do we as community deal with that, knowing that both of those have a little different, vantage point? So you are the exact opportunity. Municipal utilities don't generate all the electricity that is demanded in their community, so they have to go buy wholesale power. To the extent you can find ways to minimize that wholesale power purchase, you are doing a benefit to your own utility. Guess what can happen with more use of solar is you reduce that demand and you have to go out and buy wholesale power. Same thing with the electric co-ops. City of Tallahassee is the same exact situation. And they have a co-op, Talcon Electric, in their surrounding territories. In my mind, you are the classic opportunity for this. That's why I said Tallahassee and Gainesville are the best opportunities to do something like this. Yeah. You've researched GRU, right? And you know, like,
yes,
literally a very small, we don't purchase very much. Okay. We should probably get you in-house, but we'll talk offline.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, investor-owned utilities should be more responsive. That is not always the case in Orlando, where the mayor has been theoretically a big leader and they have 100% commitment. They just locked in 2 decades of more gas when they didn't need to. So some of this is the power, and Leon referred to this earlier, of these industries. The gas industry wants to sell gas. And Wanda, you had a question, and then Olivia, I thought you could read the third question.
Very briefly, Ennis, we are working, our ECJ is working on a national level of having conversation with Microsoft. I'll say, as I've said, my motto nowadays is, I'm tired of fighting from behind. I want to fight from the front. So I would love it if we could have a proposal ready to offer up that includes Alachua County and Tallahassee. And I look forward to talking to you about that more.
You have my commitment. I've joined deep into that. I'm absolutely on board with that. Love it.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and read the final question, and it is, will a clean energy grid be resilient in the face of increasingly extreme weather? So I think this speaks a little to what Jeff was talking about earlier about, needing storage and so forth. So any answers to that question?
So real briefly, I know I'm talking a lot. Just 2 quick stories. Number one, I was an article in the paper last week that there were solar panels that withstood the force of Hurricane Ida in New Orleans. Those people are back. They came back right away. I'm working with a guy right now. We're trying to do a project in New Orleans. This gentleman, brilliant guy out of New York. When Hurricane Sandy hit New York, he went to the industry and got them to donate equipment and went to the low-income communities in boroughs in New York City and taught people in those residents to assemble these solar units and put them on their houses. When the Hurricane Maria hits Puerto Rico, his father lived in Puerto Rico. He did the same exact thing, got equipment, got the governor of New York to fly to Puerto Rico. He went down there and put at least 1 hospital and many residences back online with units that were constructed by people in Puerto Rico. And that program continues. Those people are still manufacturing solar units in Puerto Rico now. We want to do that project in Florida and now in Louisiana. So yeah, it's happening all around.
Let me mention schools too. There are, in Florida, there are 1,900 emergency shelters and 97% of them are schools. And that's something, believe it or not, they are not resilient. They do not have storage. So again, just throwing that out to you all about how do you make a community resilient. So other comments on that?
Vivian, was your hand up?
Yes.
Right.
My hand is brown and it won't keep itself up. But this is very brief. I just want to add senior citizens in the making. When you talk about low income and disadvantaged, please keep in mind that if we're talking about selling something to somebody that's going to pay off in 20 years, I'm 83, that is really not going to appeal to me. So we've got to find ways of convincing and helping people who are senior citizens. Thank you.
The other thing is there's such a dilemma between landlords and tenants, because in Florida, there really is an incentive for landlords to make properties more efficient. The Solar Energy Loan Fund, and Stephen, I sent you a note in the chat. I would really love to talk to you about Alachua County offering this affordable financing in LMI census tracts, but SELF has a project in Atlanta now with the Atlanta Housing Authority where it deals with vouchers. And so, I mean, I've worked on this stuff for 2 decades, and I've never seen anyone crack the landlord-tenant dilemma. So I'm just, again, throwing that out when we talk about equity issues. Yvette, did you've got your hand up.
Yes, really quickly, this is not about anything energy related, it's more cultural. This cohort will be together for the breakouts, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, so Miss Vivian, Mrs. Fowler is the most elder person in the room. She gave her age. It would be a personal benefit to me if we would just acknowledge her auntie, Miss something, put a handle on her name and not just use her first name. It's cultural. I'm old school. Please forgive me. But I know that she would appreciate that. So she would never say it. She's too genteel, but I'm going to say it on her behalf.
And to confirm,
I would like to,
and to confirm what
I
she
wanted
said,
to,
that's why I referred to her as Auntie Vivian. She's not my mother's sister or my daddy's sister, but out of respect, I call her Auntie Vivian.
and for Cole, we all knew what you were talking about, Ayoka. I'd like to hear Olivia, a little bit more from Olivia on the previous question as well as this one. We've made a conscious effort to make sure that equity was a part of each of our discussions. And I don't feel like I got enough of that in the last question, in the last two questions.
Absolutely. And I apologize, Auntie Vivian. I in no way meant disrespect. And I appreciate the correction. I really, really do. So your question in the second one is, how can just transition be implemented in Alachua County? I think for me, I really think about community engagement as the ground start. Nobody knows better than anybody what your needs are as a community than those of you who live in it. And if you aren't raising that collectively, it becomes very difficult for your municipalities to then put out the things that would support you. So what makes a just transition for me? I think about energy burden. What percentage of individuals in your community have a high energy burden? And then how are you going forward to address that? How are you reducing bills? How are you addressing energy efficiency? I think something that I've seen a lot lately is that the homes that individuals of color and low income people live in, they typically tend to need a lot more upgrades in terms of energy efficiency. And so that's also driving up the bills. So how do we get your homes weatherized? How do we get your roofs replaced? That's a really big one. Sometimes you can't even support solar if you don't even have a good enough roof. So I think all of these things, and then I think about, well, what can the city or the county offer? What kinds of connections can be made to existing programs where you can funnel money to offer some sort of discount or something, some sort of incentive? What we need, what I think is really truly needed, is an incentive coming from some government body that says we're going to reduce the amount of cost it's going to cost for you to purchase the solar system, or we're going to reduce how much it's going to cost for you to do these energy efficiency upgrades. And I think like in Florida in particular, because those types of incentives don't exist everywhere, it is very hard for this type of work to really grow and grow in the communities that it needs to grow in. So I think if I answer your question, like, we really need to hone in on who has the highest energy burdens and why is their energy burden so high? Is it the home? Is it that they don't have enough income to pay for the electricity bill? I was looking at Atlanta, for example, and they have high energy burden. And how do people pay for it? They go get payday loans. And then you think about, well, man, that's just another thing that is just compounding on our community. Is payday loans are harmful, but you have to get one in order to pay your electricity bill. So I think you have to really drill deep into what is the root cause of this issue and then go from there.
That's right. And that high energy burden is a term of art, which is that percentage of your income that you're paying. So if you're lower income, it's a higher, I mean, it's kind of obvious, but it is something in the sort of utility world that people think about. Other ideas and thoughts?
Very quickly, I just wanted to tag on that this transition is happening and it has inherent economic benefits and advantages. So I want to be sure that it's clear that this is just not low-income communities saying, please come do something for us. The world is gaining the benefit of this technology. This is simply saying we need to be included as this transition occurs. There's so much, I mean, there's so much
that's obvious. So Apple Computer was for years the largest private owner of a solar field. That solar field was located out in a backwoods tobacco field in North Carolina. It was there because Apple had a data center located there, and this solar field was supplying the energy to that to that data center. Right now, all these tech companies are now duplicating that model because all of them have data centers. So you're seeing these tech companies build their own, like Susan mentioned earlier about the other folk, they're building their own solar farms. Microsoft has poured, I think, over $100 million into an offshore wind farm. So they're doing it not because, maybe because they want to be good citizens, but they're doing it because it makes economic sense for them. So now what we're saying is this economic advantage must be expanded, and there must be inclusion of these underserved communities as we achieve these economic advantages. That's a really important point for me, because otherwise it just seems like, oh, please do something for poor folks. That's not the case.
Well, one quick idea, particularly since we have the county on the phone, there is the ability to take American Rescue dollars and put that into workforce development and job training. And even like Hillsborough Community College in Tampa has a partnership with the transit agency to train people to be mechanics. So that there's one jobs to what Olivia put in the chat. And what the county could do is also take some of those American Rescue dollars, and to your point, Leon, buy down high efficiency air conditioners. This is just an example that can reduce your bill by 23%. So if you're at the lowest end of the economic spectrum, the county can just install it for you. If you're somewhere in the middle, maybe they pay half, right? And then the Solar Energy Loan Fund finances it, and now you have reduced your bill. Yes, Ms. Jay-Z, and then
Yes.
Jeff had his hand up.
Yes, one of the challenges also in communities may be lack of land. So I just want to throw it out that our family has property that we are ready and willing to serve as a pilot for whatever you might decide to do.
Great.
I just wanted to respond quickly to the question in the chat. I linked to an organization called Power 52. This is a Black-led organization in Baltimore City. And what they do is they offer training as well as wraparound services for individuals doing solar installation. So if you have a prior history of incarceration, if you are a veteran, an individual who has experienced the child care system, they recruit you to train you so you can do this kind of work. They do the education, they offer the wraparound services. So if you have transportation challenges, they subsidize it for you. If you have food or housing issues, they provide access to you. Like, you have to really think about when you're doing training, it's not just give somebody a job. There's so much more behind it that our communities in particular need in order to come up to speed and really diversify the industry.
And what is that company's name again?
It's called Power 52.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can turn this around and use these opportunities. And now with the administration currently, there's a lot of money. There's supposed to be $100 billion coming down to green banks. So these community development finance institutions, 40% is tapped to LMI. And it's so important we're having these conversations so the communities can get set up to take advantage of this money. So they're going to pull us into the next breakout room in 50 seconds. So who's got something to say? What's our next step? Jeff.
Well, I just wanted to note that a couple of big problems here in Gainesville especially is that renters and heirs to property who don't have legal title are both in deep trouble here. They cannot modify their homes. They cannot do anything until they are nothing major anyway, and until they're released from those problems.
Well, sounds like we need legal services. Anybody else who wants to say something else?
This is Vivian. I Auntie Vivian, I want to say that the county and the city does not work together in offering services. I have a person in very much need of a weatherization thing, and I couldn't find any help in the city.
Recording in progress.
Hey, Jason.
Welcome back, everyone. So that was our first the first round of our breakout session. Hope it was as exciting as it was for me, as it was for some of you all. I'm pretty excited about some of our attendees. So I'm looking forward to the next to the next round to jump into the food systems conversation with myself and Aviva.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for attending. This is such an incredible group of people we brought together. It's great.
So are we in the big group or are we're in weatherization right now?
No, right now we are in the big group, and I believe excuse me, Tristan will switch us to our next round of breakout topic.
Okay. I just want to quickly say to everybody, since I have everyone's attention on the food thing, when there was a big conversation about land access that got started at the end of our conversation. And if anybody has resources, ideas, or thoughts about land access and land protection particularly for Black farmers and farmers of color, please send them my way. I have an intern, a law student intern that's working to do a policy paper on that. And I would love to hear from anybody who has thoughts or ideas or resources. Best way to reach me is Prizia, Prizzia at alachuacounty.us. And you can find me on the Alachua County website. So if you don't hear that or remember it, I'll put it in the chat, but you can also find me on the website, but I'll put my email in.
Thank you.
Is there somebody on the city that can offer some a contact for people in need in the city that's equivalent to what the county is trying to do?
On the land side or in general of food or?
General.
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, if somebody's looking for food access resources, the city and the county are working on a map that's going to provide some support for that and be like an easy access resource, but it's not quite ready yet. Probably the best contact at the city is Carissa Raskin. She's working on a lot of food systems issues and has pulled together a lot of the community resources in that regard. I don't know her email off the top of my head, but I'll try to get it.
Thank you all so much. I've just noticed the reminder to join our next topic group. So we'll move along and we'll continue the conversation there. Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Great. And we're recording right off the bat. So hello, Olivia, our co-facilitator. Oh, they put us back in the same one. I think, aren't we supposed to move around?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we're the same group and we're in topic one. Yes. We shouldn't
Okay.
be.
Well, I'm good with this group. You all are awesome. I think we're going to solve Connie is not on here, but she had put in the chat about job training. So we really did capture some exciting opportunities. So we got the county, we can do this job training thing. Connie, you just got back on. I think they don't realize that they're, putting us together again. And now we're really going to cause some trouble.
Well, Susan, I think we're supposed to be together. We're just supposed to be on a different topic.
Yeah, so I believe good.
You're supposed to be in another room because we were supposed to be doing another topic, and I think you were supposed to stay with clean energy.
Oh, Olivia and I are in the wrong room then, Jock.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll leave the room and go back out to the main one.
Which group is this? Is this the?
This is group 1 is what it said when we
So
clicked.
group 1 is supposed to be the clean energy conversation. So I think what's supposed to happen, we were supposed to have a new cohort of folks come into here. Susan and Olivia, you all were supposed to stay.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I think y'all are on food security. So Olivia, what happens when we hit leave room? Will I go back in the big group? Okay,
so,
Okay.
let's give it a shot.
Tristan, I am here, and this is supposed to be food systems, right? Okay. I am. Do I have Aviva here with me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. Okay.
So we're in group 1.
We're in group 1.
Okay.
There we go. Well, good morning to you all. I guess we'll start this piece. This is the food systems breakout room conversation. We just finished the first round of our conversation, and we definitely pulled a few a few key pieces. But I believe you all have already done the introduction, so you all should know each other. And so I guess myself and Aviva are the new folks in this room. So I'll do a quick introduction for me. My name is Jacques Worley, pronouns he, him, and I am the Environmental and Climate Justice organizer for the NAACP Environmental and Climate Justice Program. As it relates to food system, I love food. I'm a foodie, from backyard gardening to other pieces so I wear multiple hats, and I'm also a food system auditor, where I audit agricultural businesses throughout the nation for sustainability related measures as it relates to food production. I've been involved in some food systems planning, mainly working to introduce some language and definitions related to food systems policy. So that's it for me.
Great. And my name is Aviva Asher, and Jacques already shared my my bio, a few facts about me. My husband and I have a farm in Southeast Gainesville, and I've been involved in sustainable food systems and the food movement throughout the East Coast of the US, primarily, and a little bit in Latin America. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm looking forward to digging a little deeper on some of the questions that I'm about to share. So I'll just remind everyone that our ground rules for the breakout session today are: make sure everyone who wishes to gets a chance to participate, be respectful and listen to all points of view, and look for common ground and positive ways forward. I'm sharing the questions right up here. Now, John Nix did a fantastic job of addressing question 1. What are some of the ways that investing in our local food system can mitigate the impacts of climate change, both in Alachua County and nationwide? In the last breakout group, we talked a little about question 2. What tools can we use to make nutritious foods like locally produced fruits, vegetables, meat, eggs, and dairy more accessible to everyone? And question 3, how does our current food and agricultural system reinforce racial inequality? And what are some of the ways that communities of color can benefit from a more sustainable and equitable food system? So I'd love to jump in to number 3 here to start, and but you can feel free to address any of the questions that are up, and I included some resources down here as well. We'd love to hear from as many of you as possible. So, you know, if you've shared once, please give other folks a chance as well to jump in. So we have Jeff here with his hand up.
Yes, well, I like the question because it says, how does it reinforce racial inequality? I think that what we've learned tends to stick with us. And that's a big problem. What people learn as they're young and they grow is, for example, that food that's good is good food. They just as soon go to McDonald's and get food as anywhere else. And relearning is not so easy. But your other two questions may address that, I guess.
Thanks, Jeff. Jacques, I think you're on mute.
I remember that on the last round, one of the last comments that was made as it relates to the overall loss of land by Black folks over the past few years, and thinking about what, right, like there's definitely a historical piece, to that. I often say that even though nowadays, we don't get a lot of as much representation as it relates to farm workers, that Africans were the first farm workers, in the United States, in ways, and post it all, there was a piece of 40 acres and a mule that never came through, and understanding all those pieces historically, and also to where we are now at, what can we do to change course?
Mhm.
And I also think, this is Vivian Feiler, I also think that finding a way to help people in high-rise apartments, in housing units and all of that, who have no land that they might plant a little garden in, is helping them to be near farmers markets, or bringing farmers markets closer to them, allowing them to find foods that taste good and good for them without having to go to the store. It's expensive to eat healthily. It costs a lot more to buy a vegetable, a nice vegetable that's fresh in the store, than it does to go to McDonald's and get two for $1, unhealthy kind of food. So we have to find a way of not only making this healthy food attractive, and that's not by taking these great vegetables and dipping them into this high powered sauce in order to eat them. We have to find a way to get this healthy food, the sense of needing it, the ways to find it, and how to help people utilize it. I'm from the group that grew up eating it, so that's not from, I don't have to be taught that, but we're raising our children in a fast food way. And we were beginning to do something in the schools with healthier choices. But now when the pandemic hit, children were at home. And of course, families cook, but it's a lot easier when they're home all the time to order in pizza and do all that instead. So I guess what I'm saying is multifaceted, in that there's an education piece here, and there's a way that we need to teach how great it is to eat this healthy vegetable without all of the additions of the sauces, and making them accessible. I know that's a lot in one word, but over time it pays off. And I think in small increments, we can show, small as in saying you're in an apartment, yes. But if you want to grow something, I grew my vegetables on my front, in my front of my front door, in big pots. I grew cucumbers and tomatoes and squash. I grew that in my this because I had a lot of help, because I have somebody who helps me, but it was so beautiful to see them. I used to have, when my children grew up, a backyard garden. And so I'm rambling now, but I think having it accessible, if a child raises something, it feels good to raise it, they might want to taste it as it is, as opposed to identifying it with the sauce. I'm anti-sauce.
Thank you so much. You had a lot of great comments there. I want to go to, I think Nkwando is next, and then Ines Jacobs.
Thank you. Along those lines, when I look at how does our current food and agricultural system reinforce racial inequality? First of all, we are living in food deserts that have those corner stores and the cheaper stores like Family Dollar, Dollar Tree, that are selling unhealthy food, very foods that have the preservatives in it, and foods that are causing us to be ill, causing us to need more medicines. And just an observation, whereas they can't figure out how to get a grocery store in our community that has some healthy food in it, they can find ways to put CVS and Walgreens in our community that are selling us medicine that is supposed to deal with the horrible food that we're eating. And I think that awareness is what we need to be focusing on. You can call it awareness, you can call it education, you can call it whatever you need to call it, but we need to make sure that our community makes that connection. I was made aware of it through the tobacco. I mean, we got these corner stores that are selling even the loose cigarettes, not even a whole pack. They got that in our community on every corner, you know. And then you go into the into some of the drugstores, they're selling tobacco in the front and cancer medicines and things that we use while we're going through cancer in the back. We just need to be more aware of that. And then Vivian, what you were saying about the elders, I would like to see an intergenerational project get started where we get our young kids to partner with the senior citizen community and help them to grow food. That is something that Cultural Arts Coalition, my organization, as well as NAACP, ECJ, has promoted intergenerational activities and events. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Enos Jacobs.
Hi, yes, thank you. Thank you for those comments. I am affiliated with a company. First of all, I think it's incredibly important that there are real reasons why it's critical to take note of the challenges for food production, because climate change is having a real impact in two ways. Water. A lot of people losing. We're seeing that we take notice of the hurricanes and the sea level flooding and all that. But one of the most significant impacts of climate change is in our water supply. And while we're surrounded by water, that water is salt water. So people should take note of what's happening with regard to our water impact. The other is heat. There is a crisis, if you will, in the temperatures that we're seeing right now, and those temperatures are going to affect the agriculture, because in the middle of the day when a lot of agricultural activities happen, I had the good fortune of visiting the Middle East. Temperatures over there in the summer, they have to have midday siestas because of heat. And we're gonna in the not too distant future, we're gonna be in that position in the United States, particularly in the Southeast, which is where a lot of the food agriculture takes place. So we're going to see that impact in our growth in our food prices. Now, having said that, while I was over there, I was introduced to an amazing new technology where they're using shipping containers for agriculture, and I'm amazing. So and they take these containers, they gut them out, put in systems for watering and sunlight, and they grow significant kinds of foods in those shipping containers. You can bring them to an urban community. You can stack them and grow as you like. I believe we're, and I know that technology is beginning to happen. I'm putting a link in the chat. That technology is taking root in the United States. I believe that should be happening right now in y'all's community.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one really unique thing about Gainesville and Alachua County is that we have the access to land, to soil, healthy soil, to water. We have the heat as well, but that's an incredible resource. We have the access, and we have to make the most of this access. Let's move to Diayoka JC.
Yes, I wanted to piggyback off of what you just said in terms of the fact that we have land. And I was thinking that one of the things that I offered to the community is an opportunity to come out, we clear some land and to do farming, even though you don't live on the land, you don't live out in the rural area. If you're interested, we can partner together and you can come out. I'm not able to get out and get on the tractor and all those things, but there may be, if we can co-op together, that there may be some younger persons or somebody even with a tractor who can come out and begin to co-op and grow vegetables and things of that nature. Thank you. And our property is available.
I'm sorry?
Our property is available.
Okay, I remember now either speaking with you or somebody else at a farmer's market who had a lot of land available for farming. And I think that reminds me that having some kind of network or listserv where we can connect people who want to farm, especially people of color in urban areas, to folks who have land outside of the city and aren't able to make to grow food or make their land productive, I think would be really valuable. I want to move on to, let's see, we have Connie Lee and then Bruce Blackwell.
Hello, everyone. I just want to make a shout out to the University of Florida NAACP chapter and their efforts to demand that the university stop using slave labor for their food source. And also they're demanding now to have the university, which is a big chunk of Gainesville, to have local farms as the source of their food. And I really admire that, because one thing, it's going to have an economic impact for farmers, minority farmers, and that having local source of food also has a positive effect on clean energy. So I think that should also be a focus, not only of the students at UF, but for all of us.
Thank you. And let's see, we had Bruce Blackwell with his hand up.
Yes, thank you. And actually, just following the last comment, the university has done a great job in getting local foods and also taking the produce waste and turning it into compost, which has been a very good project. But going back to number 3, how does our current food and agricultural system enforce racial inequality? Well, it begins at the federal level with the huge federal subsidies to factory farms. And factory farms, by and large, are not owned by Black people or any of the people other than the big white farmers. And it comes down to, how do we get Washington to change some of these programs and subsidies to get to a more equitable solution? And that becomes the voting box. When people are up for election, ask hard questions if they're on their way to Washington. What will you do for the local small farmer for your community. And if you don't get a good answer, don't vote for them. But do get a good answer, do vote for them, because that's a way of getting a change in how the government sends its funds, which are being left out of these local, small, and inequitable systems. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this question number 3 really does get at systemic change, and that of course has to happen on a national level as well as a state and local level. I see Jeff and Gail with their hands up. I know Nkwanda, did you have your hand up earlier? Did you want to add anything before we move on to Jeff?
No, I do want to add something, but I want to make sure other people are heard, make sure everybody who has not been heard says something before I do again.
Okay, thank you. Jeff.
Oh, I just wanted to tag on to what Bruce said. Of course, being part of the League of Women Voters, we believe in voting. Voters are critical to everything. Something in Atlantic Monthly this today said that the landed gentry are part of the problem. The landed gentry is similar to plantation owners. They're people who have millions of dollars at their disposal, not billions, not like Bill Gates or the ones you hear about. You don't hear about these people, but they have a disproportionate impact through their influence on voting patterns. It's small towns. They point out Yakima and also San Luis Obispo. My sister's there, and these small farming towns have a disproportionate impact through their owners, through the people who own the facilities that process the agricultural products, that distribute the agricultural products, that construct the facilities that they need to handle the agricultural products in their communities. So you can only counteract that by voting yourself and by increasing the vote. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Farm Bill is not an every year thing. It's like every 5 or 10 years. And you need to get a running start working on it while they're putting it all together. So it's something to be involved in on a continuing basis to try to change those priorities to supporting healthy food choices. And the Federal Department of Agriculture does a lot of things that we're not aware of. It's involved in the food pyramid, which is largely influenced by big agriculture rather than scientifically founded needs. And also that filters down into a lot of the advertising that comes out and our children and everyone is exposed to. So that's still geared to big ag rather than to human needs. So, but that's something to be involved in ongoing rather than waiting till it comes around and it's complete. So.
Thank you. Yeah, the Farm Bill, that money definitely filters down to Gainesville through programs like Fresh Access Bucks, which, the money that comes through Fresh Access Bucks incentivizes SNAP recipients to spend money at farmers markets. And as a farmer, I've benefited extremely from a program like that. So it's true that the Farm Bill does play into our local agricultural food system enormously. Deidre, let's hear from you. You're on mute. You're muted.
I wonder about workforce development and creating a program that's a pathway, not just for high school students, but for people under 40 who are underemployed in our county into food systems jobs. I feel like, one, we don't talk about the importance of all the other areas of health on your job. In other words, if you've got a stressful job, you're working in a really difficult industry, your health suffers. And helping to create a program that lets people understand the quality of life impacts from moving to a more healthier job, like in a food system, on a farm, that would be phenomenal. And actually doing the work as a county and city government to create that kind of program that could help move people to those industries.
Absolutely. Bruce, we have 2 minutes remaining.
I'm sorry, I didn't take my hand down. Take it down.
Okay.
Can I go now?
Of course.
Okay. First of all, with the voting and candidates, you know, they tell us one thing when they're running for office, and then when they get in office, they, you know, don't do what they said they were going to do. And we have perfect examples of that within our city commission right now. The other thing I want to talk about is that a few years back, I was working as with another national project with some local farmers. And I've noticed that the resources within some of our agencies that's supposed to be helping farmers were not filtering down to the farmers of color or the small farmers here in Alachua County. So we need to have those agencies to look at our food system from an equitable perspective. And if they do that, then they'll deal with our smaller farmers, our farmers who need the most help first, and then move up to the larger farmers. And I had another point, but that's all right. I got that out. Thank you.
Thanks, Nkwanda. Going back to what Deidre said about green jobs creation and helping residents get into healthy jobs where they're working in healthy environments. And I think I've seen programs, youth programs that helped, you know, in cities across the country, help get young people into jobs, into green jobs, and I think that there's that there's a lot of potential there. Sorry, I got a little distracted there at the end. We're just about up for time, and you'll all continue on to the last breakout session. Thank you so much, and feel free to look through the resources and inspiration here and add any chats to the chat room. Thank you so much.
Recording in progress.
Guess this ends the second round that we have of a breakout session. We'll give everybody else a few more minutes to either transition into here or transition into the proper next block to continue the topic conversation.
Okay, I'm very sorry to report another problem. Zoom just ended all the breakout rooms instead of allowing me. So I am now going to have to create and reassign everyone. So maybe you can have a little chat about what you have learned to date. Lynn, I'm going to try to fix this. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you so much, Roberta. Thank you so much, Tristan, for working in the back end. I appreciate y'all. Look at that, so fast. Thank you all so much. All right, let's jump into this last round of topic conversations. Thank you, Tristan.
Recording in progress.
Tristan,
hello, everyone.
You will reassign me to, I guess that would be group 3. Sorry, Mandy. Okay.
While we get all the facilitators to the right place. Hi, Jacques.
Hi.
I'm excited to welcome you all to the third and final in this rotation of breakout rooms. And Jason and I will be your facilitators for this final breakout conversation on the 3 topics that have been introduced today. This final session for you all will be focused on weatherization. And before we get into it, I wanted to just offer a few housekeeping items. So as I'm sure you've already felt in the other 2 breakout rooms, this time can actually feel very short when there's great conversation happening. So what we're going to do is I ask you to let us know when you'd like to speak so that we can kind of keep track of everyone and move through everyone and hear from as many people as possible. To let us know that you'd like to speak, you can either mention it in the chat, you can even use the word stack to be added to the stack, for example, or you could raise your hand virtually. To do that, if you haven't done that before, at the bottom middle of your screen, there are a bunch of buttons. The button on the right is reactions. And if you click it, then right above it, you'll see raise hand. And that way we'll be able to see that you're raising your hand ready to speak. And I'd also like to just invite you to share your name when you speak so that we can keep track of who's speaking at any given time. And Jason will kindly also help us keep track of time. So we ask that if you can keep your comments to within 2 minutes at a time, that would be great. When you reach 2 minutes, Jason will send you a message in the chat just to let you know. And otherwise, I'm just really excited to hear what you all have to say. The past conversations have been wonderful. And I'm going to invite Jason to share the questions that are on the screen.
Sure thing. And also just responding to Miss Vivian's comment there, if anybody else has a similar issue that your virtual hand is not recognized, you can also just put something in the stack and just say, stack, or I'd like to speak or whatever, and we'll be monitoring that. So as Mandy mentioned, the focus of this last group is weatherization. You all have had some really good conversations in the other 2 breakout rooms. Here we'll be looking at a few questions. Number 1, how does weatherization help save energy, water, and money? How does it contribute to the transition to clean energy? Number 2, how can weatherization reduce the inequitable energy burden for people of color and low-income residents? And number 3, how can weatherization services be accessed in Alachua County, and how can we expand their reach? All right, so feel free to address those questions in any order, and we'll look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you.
And I see Jeff's hand up. We'll start with you, Jeff.
Okay, well, I brought up several times now that a set of big problems for the lower income folks is the problem with heirs properties, where people don't own their own property. They live there, they don't own them. and people who rent. Jason, you're very familiar with that problem. And so people who rent have very little power over their property. And these two things produce something that is basically a legal situation. You either need to get, if you're an heir, you need to get title to your property. Getting title is not so simple. You have to go through probate, for example, other legal problems that until you get title. And of course, if you're a renter, you just cannot significantly change the property without your landlord becoming involved. And that's a big problem.
Thank you, Jeff. Vivian.
Well, thank you. I certainly agree with what Jeff has said, but I want to speak to how can weatherization services be accessed in Alachua County and how can we expand their reach. I think it's a big misnomer to throw Gainesville in the pot when you talk about Alachua County, because if Gainesville has a program that should be offering that, they will not even consider you in Alachua County. And Gainesville is in Alachua County. But if the services are there, and right now I know this firsthand because I know someone who's elderly, widowed, bad roof, and all of that, and needs services. And we've searched all over Gainesville, and they're not available in Gainesville. They've cut them out, or they're not happening, but they are in the county. And this person doesn't qualify because the city has offered. So I think it's a misnomer to throw us in the pot when there are competing programs, but one is not working. So I do think that's an issue that needs to be addressed. Gainesville is a big part of Alachua County, and therefore its residents outnumber those. But I know the needs are different out in the county for some farmers and people who have different needs there. So I wanted to speak to that issue because I think it needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Vivian, a great point. Thank you so much for raising this idea that services need to be restored and improved in the city and not only focused on at the county level. And Kwanda.
I wanted to ask Jeff if the programs that he's talking about, like the air property, and I don't know anywhere near as much about air property as I should, but if is this a requirement of the federal government? Is it a requirement of the GRU, the city of Gainesville? These requirements that you must have the signature of the actual owners and not so much the people who are living, family members who are living in the house. And I can understand about the rentals because the landlord should take some responsibility in that, and it's their property. But if a person is in a family that they've been living in this house for 20 years, is it these regulations from the federal government that make it impossible to help them?
I don't think it's the federal government. I'm not quite sure where they come from, but
it's an entity of the government, though, of
yes,
some governmental policies. Okay,
yeah,
so what we need to do with that is to have a fund that we can use to help people that are in air property, or the ones like Vivian is talking about, where we have an elder who needs to have these services, but they can't get them because these funds are only to be used in certain areas. It seems like we need a fund that we can just fund our poor people.
May I add another category? People in mobile homes, poor people in mobile homes too, but they can't get help through any of these programs because they're in a mobile home. And I know there's some criteria that's set for that, but I wholeheartedly agree with the heirs thing. I know personally, if you don't have all of those heirs that are on that list, don't turn that property over to one person, that person becomes the owner, they're not gonna get help. That's the policy Jeff is talking about.
Yes, it's not illegal for someone to modify the property they live on if they are heirs, but it is impossible for them to get help, such as from Habitat or from another agency that will modify their homes for them.
Right.
Thank you
so much. We should be funding those agencies that color outside the line a little bit, because we have to, those, even some of the ones we have, agencies, they have waiting lists, long waiting lists for people that are on there, only to be told you don't qualify. So we need to establish more resources in our community that's going to help our residents that need it the most. And from now on, Vivian, I will add the mobile home residents.
Okay.
Yeah, I might say I brought that up with Mayor Poe, and he recommended Three Rivers legal. And I think they've been a great help to people. It takes time, but nonetheless, they seem very willing to help out people in the heirs property category.
It's been very few that they have helped out with because of the resources, the lack of resources that Three Rivers has. And then the time, I think the time that it takes to go through the heirs property thing just takes so long. Why don't we just create a fund that we can help people to get those, to ask Microsoft or whomever to help with housing like that?
Thank you, Nkwanda. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Ms. Vivian. So appreciate those thoughts. And I'd like to see if others would like to respond or add to this conversation. John, we'll go to you, and then I see Sean as well.
I just joined, but I agree with what Nkwanda just said. It takes a long time to go through that process, and if there was some way to get some immediate funding, it would really help out a lot.
Thank you, John. And we'll go to Sean, and then I see Bruce after that.
Thank you. I see that the city of Gainesville is actually putting some resources, and I put a link to a story from 2020 regarding the city putting resources into heirs assistantship to help work out the ownership details. So I'd be curious to see how they're progressing with that, and if that's helping the situation with ownership and making those lines much more clear. As for how can weatherization service be accessed in Alachua County? You know, Alachua County has a long history of working with the Community Weatherization Coalition and Rebuilding Together North Central Florida, and doing a lot of weatherization and home improvement work, both for rental properties and for home properties. But I would be very interested in seeing how we can further expand a greater number of social service opportunity areas in conjunction with weatherization. If there are wellness checks, if there are opportunities to expand healthcare services, to check in on some of the most vulnerable citizens, the elderly and the folks that can't leave their homes, with some of our paramedic services. Is there also an opportunity to do home checks for how's the home envelope working, and see if we can pair up many social services that might be able to improve the quality of life of folks, you know, where they're at, rather than expecting them to be able to come to a government office. Maybe we should be thinking about government as being able to make house calls. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Really appreciate that suggestion. And I see Bruce. And then
Yes.
we'll go to Ms. Vivian as well.
Okay, regarding the first two paragraphs, I don't think we have any questions about the fact that these are how these can contribute and so forth. But I have a question as to why landlords would want to prohibit weatherization. Do we have any concrete answers from landlords saying absolutely not, and their reasons for it? And then the second part of my infinite question would be, should we not come up with a simple legal paper that a renter can present to a landlord with a plan for weatherization that would be carried out by a licensed contractor, and the homeowner could sign off on it. And it would keep them from any actions against the weatherization program. But it would seem to me that I just don't understand any landowner not wanting a weatherization program. Thank you.
Thank you for those questions, Bruce. Before we go to Ms. Vivian, I want to see if anyone would like to respond to that question. Why are landlords resistant? And what do folks think about this idea of enabling renters to present a plan for sign off?
I worked for the power company, Florida Power and Light, for 35 years, and I managed our energy conservation program, which included weatherization. The power company paid for part of about 1/3 of the cost of putting in weatherization things like window film, corking, even duct sealing. But the other part needed to be paid for by either the landlord or the individual. It boils down to cost. They would have to spend some money in order to do it. And if you're automatically getting your rent without having to put out any more money, they resist just that initial first cost, even though it would be very cost effective, and the landlord, the tenant would actually save about 30 to 40% of their electric bill, but the landlord is getting the money anyway.
Recording stopped.
And it just, from an economic standpoint, they just didn't see why they should do it, Bruce.
Recording in progress.
Thank you for that response, John. And there's an invitation for Jason to share a response as well before we go to Ms. Vivian.
Sure. Yeah. So just briefly, I mean, anybody that does some reading about energy conservation, you know, the body of literature out there, this idea of what's called the split incentive is a real thing. And that's where you've got one person that's paying the utility bills and one person who's responsible for the upkeep of the building. And so exactly like John just said, you know, we haven't really encountered many, if any, landlords at the Community Weatherization Coalition who won't allow us to come into a home and do free services for their tenants. That is pretty much everyone is pretty welcoming of. The resistance comes when landlords themselves are asked to make some investments in the property to save on utility bills because of that split incentive. And even there, I just want to say that that's not a uniform voice. I mean, if folks saw Janice Gary's editorial in The Sun recently, she's a local landlord who has been highly supportive of the renters' rights ordinance at the city and county level throughout the entire process. Nancy Darren is another local landlord who's spoken up in favor of this. And so for the folks that are taking good care of their property and care about their tenants, it's really not much of an expense, and it can make a big difference for their tenants. This whole process is really designed to go after the slumlords. And if we're talking about organized political resistance to the renters' rights ordinance, that has come almost exclusively from the Gainesville Association of Realtors and Property Managers. That's been the folks from the very beginning throughout the entire process that have come out and tried to stop this thing. So really, it's been a political fight between people who are advocating for renters and advocating for energy conservation and GACAR, unfortunately. But so far, we're winning. So let's keep it moving and keep the pressure on our city and county commission and get this rolled out. It'll help a lot of people.
Thank you, Jason. And if you wouldn't mind dropping that article that you mentioned from The Sun in the chat for others who haven't seen it, that would be wonderful. Next, we're going to go to Ms. Vivian and then to Deirdre.
Well, I have a great concern over just using the term weatherization. My assumption that it also included roofing shows that.
Thank you for lifting that up, and that connects to the ideas that we've been talking about here, that weatherization can be just kind of the connection point and should be expanded to include things like the building's envelope and roofs and health and other social services. So thank you, Ms. Vivian. We'll go to Deirdre, and then I see Sean, and then Kwanda, I see your hand up. If that's like a legacy hand up, let me know. Otherwise, we'll go to you. We'll go to you after Sean.
My question was exactly the point that Ms. Filer just got to, which is the term weatherization. I'm new, and as I'm coming into this, it's starting to feel like what we're talking about is energy efficiency overall. And weatherization is just harder for me to understand what the components are. So I'm just wondering if that matters, the terms we use.
Absolutely, thank you. And we'll go to Sean, and then I see John, and then Jeff.
To the question of why isn't roofing included within weatherization, I'll leave it to folks like Jason to answer that question, because he's certainly subject matter expert. But that's part of the reason why, when we partner with the Community Weatherization Coalition to do the weatherization work in people's homes, we also want to have another partner like Rebuilding Together North Central Florida that's prepared to do the heavier lift of systems. Like there is a problem with the roof deck and you have a leak. It doesn't do the homeowner or the renter any good to put new insulation, new back insulation into their ceiling if it's just going to get soaked and fall apart. If it does no good to caulk around the windows if the windows are broken. And so that's the substantive difference. And there's a jumping cost that go along with it. So you really have to be able to, for that weatherization work to work, which is a lower level and a lower cost, you really need to have a broader systemed approach and be able to get at that roof deck and fix the broken window, fix the major problems with the building envelope before you can get to that smaller, that easier lift level of weatherization. So they go very much hand in hand, but they're two different things. And when one involves a heavier emphasis on trades. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. And we've got 2 minutes left. We'll go to John, we'll go to Jeff, and then I'll do a quick summary.
Muted.
You're on mute, John.
Weatherization is a more broader term, and really what we're really talking about is building envelope conservation. It usually deals with sealing the envelope itself, wherein roofing is more of a protection. And so that's why it doesn't, Ms. Fowler, doesn't fall under weatherization. The roof is like a protection of the envelope, and then the weatherization usually stops with the insulation in the attic. I don't particularly like that term either. I think weatherization is too broad. I think we really should be talking about building envelope conservation, and the building envelope does not include the roof. It usually stops at this ceiling insulation.
I guess that may be true. As part of the Community Weatherization Coalition, the problem that I faced was with a woman who had heirs property. She and her brother were the heirs, and it hadn't been settled. And she had a defective roof. Someone had put on a tarp that did not function. She had leakage. Someone tore out the ceiling in a room. The air conditioning was blowing into that room and was going right out through the attic. And that was a big problem. And I mediated for her. And the only solution we could figure out was to get Three Rivers involved. Meanwhile, her house was rotting. It was terrible.
Right.
Thank you both. I might get cut off during.
Recording in
They're
progress.
ending up with the breakout rooms now. We're going to come, everybody's going to be back into this room, and we're going to wrap it up here. So thanks for joining us. That was so wonderful.
Yes. Just very glad to be with all of you all. I feel like this has been a wonderful learning experience. I will put that op-ed into the chat.
Good afternoon to you all, and welcome back. I believe we have all of our participants back in the main room. As Roberta mentioned, due to the sake of time and of course planning, we will not have the regional breakout sessions. Instead, we'll continue the conversation here in this main room here. So please utilize the chat functions to add any questions or comments, and I will go through and pick a few of them out and read out loud, and hopefully we can address some of those questions. So again, please add any questions or comment, things that we did not get a chance to finish hammering out in the topic conversations, and then we will go from there. As we are thinking about those next questions, I will open up the floor to our Environmental and Climate Justice Chair, Naquanda Jah, to transition us over to this next stage with some comments and, I believe, poetry. Naquanda?
Okay, thanks again to everyone. We've been getting, our committee, ECJ, has been getting a lot of compliments today about what we're doing here. I want to, first of all, again, thank everybody who was in attendance, because you've made it as much of a success as we've had, and so far has far surpassed my expectations. I want to definitely make sure that you know that it wasn't just me who put this together, that our subcommittee included John Nix, Roberta Gassmeyer, Deborah Shore, Michelle Rutledge, and Jacques Worley. So I thank all of you, and you all, when you see these people on Zoom or wherever, tell them how awesome they are. I want to share a poem with you that I created a couple years back. Part of it being frustration, but also a part of it to help, hopefully help people to understand why I work so hard on environmental issues. It's called Whatever. You can call it climate change, global warming, or whatever. I call it disrespecting the earth, disrespect to God, the creator, Mother Nature, goddess, or whatever. Too many of you walk around proclaiming to love God, but instead of love, you heap your garbage upon the earth, produced by your addictions to things that hurt the earth, polluting the air, the water, the very dirt for which we get our food. Disrespecting all of God's creations. Too few lift a finger to produce and preserve that which is vital to sustain life, making it difficult for this generation, the next generation, or any future generation to enjoy the earth as we have known it. I pray I see the day when humankind, civilized people, come to love what God, the creator, Mother Nature, Allah, or whatever, as much or possibly more than what man has made. Find out what you can do, not show me, your parents, your children, your neighbors, your friends, but to show God, the creator, Allah, Mother Nature, Jesus, or whatever, to help restore, protect, and preserve what has been given to us by God, the creator, goddess, Allah, Mother Nature, or whatever. If each of us does this, we will not need to fear climate change, global warming, or whatever. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much, Naquanda, for those words. So now we have about 30 minutes left in our programming. I've seen there's some questions already being thrown in the chat, and Tristan has answered some. So about So the YouTube channel link has been put into the chat. And as soon as we are wrapped up here, I think one of the remaining tasks for the subcommittee is to provide some final words and send links and documents to our attendees for those that are able to make it and those that are not. So you will be able to revisit this conversation via recording, and we'll also do our best to make the presentations from our panelists available to you all as well. Let's see.
You just answered my question.
Thank you so much. This was awesome.
So a few more comments. We have a comment from, I guess I'm going back to Anna. How do we collaborate to put pressure on UF to do the right things with energy, food, and community collaboration? Do we have any? And this is right. This is open to us all. Some of our panelists are welcome to answer this. Wendell, I see you have your hand up. Would you like to provide a little feedback to that question?
Yeah, having been buried inside of the UF for 27 years and seeing their lack of reaction on a number of issues, I'm not sure anything short of a 2x4 upside the head is going to get their attention. I mean that rhetorically, don't anybody think that I'm inciting violence, but the fact of the matter is until it rises above a certain level, you're just not going to get any attention. So I honestly, for my mental health, I'm going to put more work into the community rather into the organizations because they're not listening. I appreciate Anna's question. It's the best question out there. How do we do that? Wow. I don't, anybody have an answer, but again, a bully pulpit, marching in the street, thousands of students protesting, embarrassment on a national scale. Those are all possibilities.
All right, so thank you for that, Wendell. And again, definitely not promoting any violence. John, I saw that you had your hand up, and then Helen, and as well as Michael.
Just quickly, Wendell, I share your frustration there, being a long time growing up here in Gainesville, and it's just not the food issue, but many issues that separate UF from the community. However, one of the things that I'm very encouraged about, and in my presentation, I also talked about collaboration, and we have an organization that was started by the city called the Food System Consortium. And in that, we are bringing all the people that have to do with the food systems together. And the university have been, representatives from the university have been a part of that. And one thing I can say is sometimes they don't know what the community really thinks. And in this consortium, we've had a chance for people to speak directly to the food system part of the university. And they're kind of forcing their hand a little bit. When they use the word local food, they have such a wide definition, for example. And so they're being challenged about that. And it's causing them to have to come up with an answer. So I guess what I'm saying is sometimes through collaboration and bringing them to the table, it causes them to maybe not blatantly do what they do, but maybe by bringing public attention to the way that they handle things, they're being a little bit more open to listening, I would say.
Thank you for that, John. John, could you please write the name of that consortium in the chat box for us, please, so that some of our attendees could follow up on that. Before I move on to the next topic, we have a couple of folks still, Helen and then Michael, if you'll provide some feedback to that original question, please.
Yeah, when Wendell was
Yeah, okay, I'm there. When Wendell was talking about the frustration of working within the university structure, and as a city commissioner, you know, I'd had so many people that were either expecting government to do everything or nothing. And knowing that government can't do it all, my recent involvement with this interfaith collaboration, climate collaboration process has extended the invitation and interest in inviting a people of faith gathering similar to what Bill Moyers did in the 1990s called Spirit and Nature. And with that, they had a discussion with all these world leaders. The Dalai Lama was there, leaders of several of the Native American tribes of US. And then of course, your Christian, Methodist, Episcopals, Catholics, gathered to talk about what their religious doctrine leads them as people to take care of the planet. And so we'd like to repeat that here with the interest in what does your faith ask you to do for climate change? And the idea is by reaching people of faith with a consideration that so many of our political leaders make these claims of being of faith, that maybe we can get more of an uprising. And there's been a lot of interest within religious groups to talk about climate change. So I feel this is one way we can get out of the choir. Like, you know, all the people that are here with us today, we're the ones who show up for so many of these things. But how do we get outside the choir? And yet literally what we're asking is to invite the choirs of several different faiths to come together and talk about this issue of equity. Martin Luther King's World House, where he talked about if there's going to be peace on earth with social justice in America, we need to have peace on the whole world. And so if you're interested in having some conversations about how you could be a part of this interfaith climate conversation, I've put my phone number on the website. But again, I feel there's so much about what we as citizens are not doing to make this world a better place. And it's got to be more than just voting once a year. It's what we do every day. So anyways, I hope that I'm looking for a team of people to be part of the planning, and I've got several members of the African-American faith-based community that have already said that they'd be interested. I'm just looking for a broad thing. And again, whether you believe in evolution or creation, this is a conversation that we could come together with together.
Thank you so much, Ellen. I appreciate those comments, and I agree wholeheartedly. This is a piece that needs to come from every and all angles. Now, Michael, I believe you also had your hand up to provide some feedback to that, and then afterwards we'll go to our next polling question. Michael, the floor is yours.
Yes, and so I think one of the things we've been talking about is, of course, equity. But I know the question that was brought up was in reference to the University of Florida. And I think that one of the things that can happen there is just that we those that work there, you know, we have to, you know, take charge of the things that are around us. And so oftentimes it's about making people aware of the things that are around us. But that means also that we need to be educated. I mean, participating in conferences and workshops like this helps us become a lot more educated about, you know, the clean energy. And so as we learn more, we're able to go out and say, hey, why isn't there these things in our particular area, and talk a little bit more about that. I think that there is a lot of opportunity here, and is the institution, you know, a leader in this? The answer is no. They may be thinking they're doing a great job because they're putting out these signs, but I think everybody thinks they're doing a great job in the area of this. The problem is there needs to be a lot more education, and everybody needs to be educated. Just because it's an institution of higher learning doesn't mean that they know all of this information. And so participating in workshops like this teaches us a lot more. And so I thank those who convened this, because I learned so much just participating in this and taking this information out to the community is what I plan to do. And I'm going to take it to where I work at the university so that we can make a change, at least in those areas. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate those words. Ms. Vivian,
Yeah.
finally, you've had a question.
Yeah, and my hand Thank you. My hand doesn't show. And I want to agree with Dr. Bowie. He is at university, but the town and gown issue is what we're talking about now. And students at the University of Florida don't get an education on the campus of the University of Florida. They need to be in the community. So when we're working on any entity that deals with this climate change, I would like to see us make contact with whoever controls that at University of Florida and see about sending students to our meetings, to our gatherings, to our whatever. They're helping to teach the children, to help go into low incomes, go door to door. We can find ways. I think we have to challenge that department wherever it is. I have 5 interns coming next week from the University of Florida. I've done it for years, and we just have to keep on doing that because we can't let them decide for themselves because they don't know what to decide. So I would say those of us who are dealing with environmental things, reach out. We can even from this meeting here today, send the president a letter telling him that the education is incomplete until they come in the community and put it into action. I'm a go-getter. Thank you.
I love that. No, that's powerful.
Hey, Jacques, real
so-
quick. Jacques, I put in the chat a link to an action page where you can send a letter to President Fuchs if someone wants to go that route. So there's a link in the chat or a bit.ly. So anyway, and I put my email in, and there are a bunch of people still trying to fight that. And it's like the old lottery slogan, right? You can't play or you can't win if you don't play. So there is an strong economic argument for this being a huge mistake. So I do think that if we're strong and we stand together and we make those smart arguments, we might be able to embarrass them, Wendell, maybe. So I'm not unrealistic, but I spent about 5 years and we fought several coal-fired power plants. So it's easier to kill a plant, right? Or it's easier to kill a bill than pass a bill. So anyone that wants to stay, be engaged in that, there are a number of people, but check out that link.
Thank you so much, Susan. Please check out that link. And for the remaining time, I'd like us to talk a little bit around this centering question here. And then I'm sure Naquanda would like a few minutes to close us down when that time is up. But the next question is, what is your clean energy vision for your community? Please share that with us. All right, so that is the next question, because the whole topic has been transitioning to 100% clean energy, highlighting solar, wind, and not necessarily biomass burning, but clean energy. Again, what is your clean energy vision for your community? We have our hand up here with I want to say Diayoka, JC.
Yes, thank you. My vision, and I am just so happy. I am so just excited. And I just want to thank Sister Nkwanda for thinking about Monioke, for thinking about our Yoka gifts, for thinking outside of the city of Gainesville, because so many times things are offered for the folks who live within the city, and the county folks are just not even thought about. So thank you, Sister Nkwanda, for now over a year. My vision has been to set up some sort of a farm, what do we call it, microgrid area, to utilize our property to put in solar systems. But like I said in the beginning, until the one that I have paying over $20,000 for, until it works, my Clay Electric bill is now higher than it was before I got the solar system. Something is wrong with that picture. I am upset, but I know that my solution is coming through this event. And I just want to say thank you, because I know there was an older gentleman who was paying $400 and some for one tank of gas. that's just, how was he expected to live the rest of the month? So my vision is to see solar energy in the Monteoka community to help all of my kin folks, and anybody else to benefit from the energy that the system produces. Thank you. And God bless you all in the efforts.
Thank you so much for sharing that vision with us. Anyone else?
I would just like to say one of my visions, and I see it, is that the technology keeps developing such that the price reduction in solar and battery backup and hydrogen generation becomes such that it becomes common as the computer did. And it can in our cell phones. As that technology develops, it will become commonplace. And that's my vision, that it becomes less expensive to put in a solar system than it is to hook up to a natural gas system. And I think as technology develops, and we can see from any technology that we've had, how our cell phone, that it will happen. And I just hope, my vision is that it happens very quickly and such that we can save our planet. And we do it in a manner that we are not just heating up our planet every year. So technology development is my vision, such that we can make it commonplace for renewable energy technology to be in everyone's home.
Do we have any other thoughts on that one? I have Olivia Ned's piece here I'll share with us. She wrote, her vision is ownership and tangible benefits, such as reduced energy bills, jobs, cleaner air, and access to financing. I love that. I will also bubble up that Anna mentioned that PACE is on the agenda for the county this upcoming Tuesday. She would love the community to weigh in on that. And there's an email that has been provided for comments or to call in for the meeting. And that is BOCC@alatra, PINTY.IL.
No, sorry, it's Alachua County. I had a typo.
Thank you. I was like, that would make sense.
I know, sorry. It's hard to type on my phone. alachuacounty.us.
Okay, so it's BOCC@alatracounty.us. And our subcommittee, hopefully we can send this out after we've wrapped up here. We have one more vision shared with us through the chat from Michelle Rutledge, that her vision is an equitable and just transition to renewables, including a community-centered approach in Alachua County. As we are winding down, got about 13 more minutes. Alice, I see that you have your hand up.
Thank you. I hesitate to mention this because I don't have the latest information on it. But about 4 or 5 years ago, I went to a seminar at Santa Fe. And at that point, they had a man who was overseeing alternative energy for Santa Fe with real live practical applications for the students to get involved in and see in operation. And I know that he retired, and I don't know what happened to that program, but I'll tell you, I was very impressed with what I saw up there. And it would be worth a phone call. I'd be happy to make the call to find out if they are still doing that and if they're still offering that. And if some of the people that are directly involved with some of the information that I heard today would be interested in it, that would be a very good place to check, especially with what's going on at UF. Because the Santa Fe students, a lot of them wind up at UF. So they must be scratching their heads wondering why UF is going off in such a different direction. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alice. Wendell, you have your hand up?
I think long-term, when you talk about the justice and include the community and energy and those topics, one of the things we should be able to measure and keep on measuring, and that is that the cost burden issue starts to shrink, such that with people in the more higher economic strata would pay 4 and 5% of their bills to energy, and the people in the lower economic pay 15%. You want to see that go down to 10 and then 5 and even up. So we can actually track that. And until those numbers do align, we can't really say we have success. So keeping track of those burdens is probably the easiest way to measure success.
Thank you, Wendell. Let me see here. I don't see anybody else's hand up. Alice, your hand is still up. Did you still want to share? No?
No, I thought I took it down.
No problem. I wanted to read a note out that we have on our chat as it relates to PACE. PACE are loans and lien on the property, so you must have consumer protection. Commercial PACE has benefits as well. And then the self-financing is unsecured, so you can't lose your home, but it does the same thing. So broadly speaking here, PACE puts a lien on your property, which mean you may end up losing it, while self-financing is unsecured, so you can't lose your home. But PACE also has a commercial aspect that is also super beneficial as well. Had another comment related to integrated ag with solar farms. We have to think in multi-stack rather than big monocultures that create multiple uses and streams of income. All right, so looked up here, Nancy, the floor is yours if you'd like to make a statement.
Yeah, Nancy Darren. So that point about PACE was never designed to be for residential, and somehow it got mixed up into that because it benefits commercial. It stays with the property. They can deduct over a long period, but it is very dangerous for residential, I think. And so this self program, I'm eager to learn a lot more. Appreciate Susan bringing that to attention. And thinking of these systems, we've got to stop thinking in monocultures and giant centralized scale, or it's it's only going to continue to benefit the big players. We have to look horizontally and collaboratively and cooperatively if we're going to build an equitable and thriving system going forward. And the food system is such a huge piece of this because it takes 10 calories, fossil calories of energy to produce 1 calorie of food-like substance most of the time, or big commodities. So the Farm Bill is already starting to be discussed. It's the biggest bill nobody ever has heard of. But the conservation programs under USDA and all are a huge untapped resource in so many of these issues, from land access and management to shifting to more local, nutritious food.
Nancy, thank you so much for those comments. And I'll just throw it out there, understanding that the NAACP ECJ has quite a workload of things to do. Nancy, that sounds like an amazing proposition as it relates to the Farm Bill. I think collectively with all of us here coming from so many different organizations, and yet, we're all sharing some of the same passion for this transitioning. I recommend that maybe you start a working group for the Farm Bill, and then eventually, the folks that have the capacity and interest can start joining into those conversations. Anna, I see you have your hand up as well.
I just wanted to say two quick things. One, on the PACE, the thing on our agenda is actually to approve the lenders and financing for PACE moving forward for another 5 years. And my big concern is I don't know enough about this, but I'm learning, and as I go, I learn more and more about the predatory practices around homeowners lending, and also even with some of the structures, kind of the lack of accountability with regards to construction quality and things like that when it came to renewable energy and this use. So if folks have more information, if folks have expertise, Susan, I saw your comments, please do reach out to the BOCC at electriccounty.us and share your ideas and information. I'm doing a very quick education. And the other thing I wanted to point out with regards to Nancy and her food systems conversation is that the University of Florida, in addition to this whole gas plant situation, is also currently renewing their dining services contract. It's one of the largest contracts they have. It's $40 million or more. And they bid with the big, food industry people to provide dining services on campus. And now is the time to share with UF's administration, particularly the COO, Charlie Lane, if you want to see more accountability around sustainable food and local food systems in the dining services contract at UF.
Thank you so much, Anna. So it's 12:55. We have about 5 minutes left in our program. And I'd like to transition it over to our Environmental and Climate Justice Chair, Naquanda Ja, to give us some final words. But for me, I would like to say thank you all so much for the past couple of hours. It's been great and amazing conversation that we've had throughout. Very powerful, very energizing conversations. Definitely made my morning today. So thank you all for that. Again, we have a wealth of individuals here from diverse backgrounds and industries and organizations. I think it's paramount that we continue this conversation, that we carry on what we have learned today. And of course, big time, I'm a big fan of policy, is to put some pen to paper and introduce some equitable policies as it relates to energy, food systems, and weatherization as much as possible. So thank you all so much. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to our facilitators. Thank you to our attendees for today. Thank you so much. Naquanda, the chair is yours.
Thanks for letting me know I was on mute. Again, I don't think that we can say thank you too many times to the people who participated today. We sincerely appreciate you. We wanted to make sure today included a very diverse representation from our community. So we were about soliciting partners for this event that we put onto our flyers so that people would know that this is not just an environmentalist conversation amongst environmentalists, but this is a conversation about the planet and air and water and food, which we all share. Those organizations that we put onto our flyer to make sure that they know us, thank you all so very much. Thank you to Siembre Farms. Thank you for Nicoya Farms. Thank you to Greater Duval Neighborhood Association. Thank you for Ioka Gifts. Thank you for the Racial Justice Committee of the United Church of Gainesville, Cultural Arts Coalition, for which I represent. Thank you to Hall Chapel United Methodist Church of Rochelle. And thank you, last but certainly not least, Omega Psi Phi. We're looking forward to having some of the Omegas to join our ECJ. And that goes out to anybody that's here. If you want to work on any issues that we've talked about today, come on over. We have workers. I'm not telling you to bring us some more work to do, because we got lots of work to do. We ask you to bring your your energies and your organizing skills and your time to our ECJ. Our ECJ is not just working in Alachua County, but we're working with JOC to make those connections throughout the state, throughout the nation, and into other countries, because we are connected. We are all connected. We share the same planet. I'd like to say that as far as the University of Florida is concerned, we need to get on the same page with that. There are things that we can say, oh, thank you, University of Florida, for doing, but there are some things that they're doing that will hurt us, that already hurts all of our community, such as this gas plant. Do not let them get by. Do not let them separate us out. I've seen them come into our community and solicit help from high visibility people in our community. And when they put their name or have a photo op with them, then they can say, oh, we have the support of the community. Please let us not do that. Please, please. They're an institution of higher learning. Let's hold them to that. I want to also say that we, as a community, everybody that was here today, we're working for the health of our community. Let's keep that at the forefront. And lastly, what we got? 1 minute. Let's close with the happy birthday song to Jacqueline. Thank you, Jack. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday
to you.
Happy
birthday. Happy
birthday
To you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Thank you, Jock, and you are a part of our community. We look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
So exciting. Thank
An
you.
awesome job,
Kristen
Jack.
and Roberta, thank you. Thank you for making our visual event a success.
Oh,
Great,
thank you
great,
for putting
great.
up with
Thank
us.
you.
Any else?
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you, Brother Nick.
Thank you.
all so
Good to
much.
see you.
Ronnie.
Everybody, thank you. Everybody, thank you. This was off the chain good. And I'm so proud of you, John Nix.
I am too. I am too. Vivian, you don't even know the half of it.
Well, the half I know is real good.
That
And
Ron
our
is something
moderator,
else. That Ron is
our
something
moderator
else.
was off the chain excellent. This was so good. So
Thank
good.
you. Thank you for all you
Yes.
guys do.
Oh, thank you. Be blessed.
Be blessed.
All of you.
All right. Bye-bye.
I'm actually up in Orlando. My daughter got
Oh.
indoctrinated into circuit judgeship this weekend.
Oh,
So
well, you know,
she's
my
she's a-
baby's in Orlando.
Okay.
Craig is at the city.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Yeah, she became, she got her in the ceremony today. She got indoctrinated yesterday as the circuit judge of Orange County.
I'll have to tell my son to look for her.
Yeah.
How about that? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, goodbye, y'all.
Bye-bye,
And Kwanda, off the chain, girlfriend.
I love you.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Angie, I'm coming down right now. Okay.
All right. So Tristan, are you still there? What, is there anything we need to do to wrap this up?